Monday night, Dieter's in the house. The Super Bowl. Dieter was right. I was wrong. The money has exchanged hands, ladies and gentlemen. Money has exchanged hands. I hate to even say that. But we got a lot to get to. We're going to help rebuild the Niners, whether they like it or not. Off and running Monday night on the Krug Show. Dieter is here. The Super Bowl came. The Super Bowl went. And it's funny, the weather is also getting worse. It's like the people came, they really got treated to a great week of San Francisco weather. It was really nice. Really nice in February. It could be anything. February is kind of random, but it was beautiful. And now it's starting to get a little more overcast, and they say rain's in the forecast, but it doesn't matter. The crowds came, and they enjoyed the Bay, and they left, and we got a Super Bowl win by the Seahawks. And I'm not super, mad about it. I know there's a lot. I would love to. I didn't like it that, it was the Seahawks, but it's not. To me, I kind of feel like, it's like, hey, is she going out with me? Or if not, why do I care who she's going out with? I don't.
Yeah.
So it's like, if the Niners can do it, great. If the Niners aren't in it, I don't really care who wins it. And I'm not, keeping tallies and that kind of thing. Maybe years ago I was, but not anymore. So there you go. But the Seahawks win it, and their defense was incredibly dominant. And we're going to get into that a little bit. We're also going to get into what did the Niners take away from this? What should they take away from this? What would, it seems like with the reappearance of Eddie DeBartolo, I have Eddie on the brain a lot this week, and I think that's a good thing for the 49ers. What would Eddie do in this situation where the 49ers got close? And I think history tells us exactly what he would do, and we're going to get into that as well as we're going to go through, 13 needs or whatever on the Niners, and we're going to give you names, actual names. We're going to fill the 49ers needs on this show. We're going to make this a complete rebuild show.
Yeah.
Dieter, good to see you. Truth be told, Venmo, I sent my 50 via Venmo earlier today. You had the Seahawks. For those who don't watch every stream, we had a wager. I took Patriots plus 4.5. I just did not want to root for the Seahawks, and my nephew's a big Patriots fan. I just wanted to root for the Patriots.
Yeah.
But man, I talked to Kev on Super Bowl Sunday. I'm like, what do you got? And he's like, dude, I'm taking the Patriots. I'm taking the Seahawks on the money line. And I'm like, I probably should just lay some money on the Seahawks on the money line, but I don't want to be in this, I just didn't want to confuse who I'm rooting for and that kind of thing, get middled. Yeah. And all that kind of thing. So I just stayed with my wager. I lost my money.
Yeah.
I lost my wager to you on 4.5. I took New England on the teaser to the under. The under was fine, even with all the late scoring. Mm-hmm. But the teaser only gave me 12.5, and obviously they lost by more than that. So
wow.
I was a loser, double loser, maybe triple loser, actually.
Yeah.
On Super Bowl Sunday. But you had it. You said this was an all-time defense. I don't know that it's an all-time defense like you believe it is, but it clearly I think schematically they are overpowering right now, and they create a massive obstacle. So give me your takeaway from Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah, that's the best defense we've seen in the NFL in 15 years. And there are going to be a lot of teams that come out because we all know the Super Bowl is sort of the first scouting point of every season. Everyone watches it. Everyone tries to think, what's the winner doing? How should we do that? And the Niners obviously saw that firsthand when every team came out the next year and copied Kansas City's game plan against them in 24 with press man-to-man on Deebo Samuel and such. I think there's going to be a lot of scoring in the NFL next year because there's going to be a lot of defensive coordinators who are like, we're going to try the Seahawks plan. And they cannot do the Seahawks plan because that thing has been built from the ground up to be an absolute dominating force. Again, I think the best defense in the NFL in 15 years. And when Sam Darnold just doesn't screw up and the Patriots have a roster that has been assembled with duct tape, spit, and bubble gum outside of their quarterback, with a lot of good players, don't get me wrong, but still a team that had been drafting in the top 5 perennially, but not enough to where you had this high floor, a lot of free agents coming in, 30 new players, I think, for the Patriots this year. It was a pretty easy exercise for me, especially having watched the Patriots film and how they couldn't protect on the left side. And we watched the 49ers, who we can disagree about their overall quality, but I certainly thought they had something to them. They won a playoff game for whatever that's worth against the Philadelphia Eagles. And we saw how that was they were just got their asses kicked. They absolutely got their asses kicked in those games. And I just didn't see a way in which the New England Patriots didn't follow the same fate, because I kind of liked the Niners personnel a lot better than I liked the Patriots personnel going into that game. A credit to Mac Hollins for scoring a touchdown, but Mac Hollins as your number 2 receiver doesn't scare me, and it didn't scare Seattle either. It was a pretty boring game to watch, but a nice validation for me, because I have been on the Seahawks bandwagon in a way all season. I just thought that something really special was happening there. The second half of last year, I loved all of their offseason moves in their draft. And I thought Darnold was an upgrade over Geno Smith. That's indisputable now. So I've been talking up the Seahawks, and sometime I'd say about Halloween, I'm just like, it's on. Like, this is it. This is the team. And the only team that I thought could give them any business turned out to be the only team that could give them the business, which was the Rams, who were built with the sole intent in a lot of ways of counteracting what Seattle does on their defense. So very curious to see what Kyle Shanahan does in the same vein. He'll be a year behind, and he'll have the scars from those 2 playoff battles and sort of a play-in battle, as it were, in Week 18. But it's not as if the Niners are all that far off. I know that sounds like wish casting and such, but Seattle's in an extremely good spot there at the top of the mountain. Very hard to stay at the top of the mountain, especially if you're a defense-first team. That's just not how the league is built to succeed. You're not supposed to be a great defense year in and year out in the NFL. And maybe they're the team that can buck that trend and stay at number 1 year in and year out for a while. But I imagine the defense not being sticky, even that defense, they're going to have a bit of regression there just naturally, and then it puts more onus on an offense that's going to have to go to another offensive coordinator after Clint Kubiak takes the Raiders job. And frankly, I wasn't even the biggest Clint Kubiak fan throughout the season. Good luck to the Raiders with that. But it's going to be very interesting. Obviously, the Rams still a team to go, but if the Niners want to, if they want to play ball, it's not like the Dodgers and the Giants, right? Like, you can get back in the game with one really good offseason. And I was going through some of the Super Bowl odds today, Larry, and there's a lot of numbers that, they're like the Chargers at 15-1. I like the Vikings at 50-1. But I think that the Niners number now, which is somewhere around 15, 16-1, I think that's about as good of a value as you're ever going to get on the San Francisco 49ers going into this offseason. And if we're rolling over our profits, I would say maybe get in on that action while you can.
Well, I mean, I got to say, before I'd be willing to throw any shekels on the 49ers, they're going to have to do several things to improve their situation. I do like the Chargers with what they're doing with Gase and McDaniel, and I think Harbaugh has broadened his kind of offensive scope, and I think that's probably going to be a good thing. And so we'll see. They do those Minter, but I do kind of think the Chargers, that Jim's building something. He always seems like he always is.
Yeah.
The Seahawks have the 6th most cap space in the NFL going into the offseason, at $73 million. So John Schneider is going to be able to retain a lot of the guys that he wants to retain. Mm-hmm. Now, the question is, what do the Niners do to keep up? And what would Eddie D do? Well, we got this before. We don't have to wonder what Eddie D would do. We kind of know when the Niners were, in the early 90s, 92 and 93, losing to the Dallas Cowboys. Mm-hmm. What did Eddie do? They went out in free agency and they took Ken Norton away from the Cowboys, among other people. But that was the one they took away from the Cowboys. And I think if you're the 49ers, you probably should consider doing that. I mean, Seattle has Boye Mafe. They've got Kobe Bryant. They've got K9, who's the Super Bowl MVP. They've got a bunch of different free agents out there that, Tariq Woolen and others that could help the 49ers Maybe you start there and pick off one of their guys. Maybe you go dip into their front office for their assistant GM Kirshner,
There's an idea.
who's been considered for a number of GM jobs over the last number of years, and he's considered to be John Schneider's right-hand man. So I don't know what the answer is, but the 49ers clearly have to. They've got some. Seattle has a couple things that are real obvious.
Mm-hmm.
One is, and Shanahan said it in the pregame show. He's like, look, it's not complicated. They sit in that too deep safety look. They take away. They just basically just put those guys out there, and they're just like, don't try us.
Yep.
And everything, and then they give you a real light box with some undersized second level defenders like Drake Thomas, and they lure you into running. But then their defensive front is a wall, even without Puna Ford. It was a wall when they had Puna, and now Puna's also a wall. He's just a wall for the Rams. And so they build that wall in the front. Jaron Reed, very hard to move. Byron Murphy, hard to move. Leonard Williams, that's their three tackles. They're really, really, really strong. DeMarcus Lawrence sets a wicked edge for at this point in his career. He's not the burner that he was off the edge, but he's so strong, functionally strong. So they're really strong up front. And then they don't really have a burner edge. They're more like strength off the edge.
Mm-hmm.
But then they've got all this second level speed, and they just close all that space down on you. So Shanahan made the point. He's like, look, they're going to sit in that two shell, and if you don't run them out of it, there's really no – only way you're going to beat that otherwise is a dynamic quarterback with crazy great arm strength, a dynamic quarterback with crazy, unbelievable foot speed, a wide receiver that can hit a seam and just go, just like dominating wide receiver, or you're going to have to, get some big boys up front and pound the run and stick with it.
Yeah.
I'll ask you this. Why do you think the Rams were a challenge outside of Stafford being Stafford? Because the Rams, Blake Corum ran for 6 yards a carry. The Rams, as a team in the NFC Championship game, ran for over 5 yards a carry. They were running the ball well against Seattle. They didn't stick with it, but nobody else. I mean, Seattle was number one team in the NFL this year against the run, I believe.
Because if you can get to the edge, you can run on them because of the light box. Because, yes, the interior with the three tackles and a very strong edge, be it Hall or Lawrence or whomever, is going to, set that line. But if you can get to the perimeter, if you can get to the numbers, if you can stretch it, you can really do some damage if you can get those blocks. And we saw, I would say 6 or 7 times where the 49ers could have broken a big one. They could have had a really, really good 15, 20-yard run with Christian McCaffrey, except for the fact that Luke Farrell or Jake Tonjes or George Kittle, for one example, or Jawan Jennings didn't hold the block on the outside. They could not make that final block to reestablish their edge on in the run game. And so why did the Rams have success? One, Sean McVay was a year ahead. So Sean McVay saw what was happening, and 2 years ago they made the fundamental shift up front to go get maulers, as opposed to the speedy angle offensive linemen who can get to that second level, get to that third level. You want them out in space. And they went out and they spent a lot of money in free agency 2 years ago to get dudes who just beat you up in a phone booth. And it was somewhat antithetical to what it was that the Rams did, and this idea of the Rams, the idea of the 49ers, the idea of a Kubiak outside zone. But it was prescient in the sense of they saw what was coming with Seattle. They saw what was coming with defenses attacking outside zone, because you see it damn near every week now. It's the foundational offense of the league. And McVay, who is ever the pragmatist, looked at it and with Les Snead said, we got to be one step ahead because they're coming for us, and we're not going to have an answer unless we already have put it into the game plan. So there was that. Also, it gives Matt Stafford a better shot with better guys who can anchor. And with a big quarterback, you don't have to worry about big offensive linemen in terms of just spacing and size and such. So there was that. Second, they went to 13 personnel. And that was the definitive
three tight ends,
1 running back. The definitive set for the Rams this year. And that's going to be a big in
But
vogue thing.
it's funny. You saw the Barnwell's preview. If you read that, he said that they had 40 snaps with either 12, which is 2 tight ends, or 13 personnel. Yeah. And the Seahawks, Dieter, stayed in nickel on 36 of the 40 snaps. So it's like McDonald really believes that his nickel, his smaller guys can stand up.
He has every reason
speed.
to.
Yeah.
Right. Like Devin Witherspoon is as good of a tackler as a corner as you'll ever see, and he's not really even a corner anymore. He's just sort of a jack, right? Or jackal, star, whatever you want to call it. They put 2 linebackers out there beyond Thomas at weak side, but with Emanwari as sort of a big dime and Witherspoon as a slot who can effectively play linebacker, also the ability to play all those guys at all 3 levels. The Mike Macdonald defense is predicated on versatility, and it's, of course, predicated on versatility because it was created to beat the McVay and Shanahan offenses of the world, which are predicated on getting players who can do multiple things onto the field and creating conflict for defenders. But if you never sub, so that you're never in the wrong set, right? You're never outmanned, you're never too light, you're never too heavy. If you just say, these are our guys, here we go, and you're going up against a George Kittle and a Christian McCaffrey or even a Deebo Samuel or whomever, then yeah, like you have a really good shot of matching them for their versatility. Oh, Christian McCaffrey's catching the ball out of the backfield? Cool, we're fast. Oh, he's running the ball? Cool, we're strong. Same guy. So you're matching versatility with versatility, so there's no conflict there. The flip side is when you go to 13 personnel, it's such overkill that it is, as you just laid out, as Bill Barnwell apparently laid out, and was very evident on the tape, when you don't sub on the defensive side, but you go to 13 personnel, you are inherently giving up a disadvantage. Now the offense has one more versatile player, being a tight end, than you did. And if the 49ers wide receivers blocked better this season, maybe you could make the argument that the Niners wouldn't have had to go to 13 personnel, but they were garbage in 12 personnel. It didn't matter if it was Kittle in there. It didn't matter. Certainly Tonjes, he's not a good blocker. Good catcher, not a good blocker. And Luke Farrell, I don't know what the hell it is he does, but he was awful. You can try it with Kyle Juszczyk, and that was an interesting little wrinkle. I mean, the other way you can do it is you can just go 4 wide. You can just go to a 10 personnel, where you have no tight ends on the field, and you've spread it out. And now you have Nick Emanwari out in space, which is something that if anyone who did the draft evaluation of him and thought he was an actual safety looked at, they would go, that seems like a good advantage for a wide receiver versus Nick Emanwari. Or, probably not against Witherspoon because that dude's unbelievable, but you could play that game as well. The issue was that the Niners did a lot of small window dressing things. And it worked against every other team, more or less, save for Houston, which, again, a bit of a tell there, because Houston doesn't sub either. And all the dash motion, which was an incredible offensive innovation that Kyle came up with this year, with Kyle Juszczyk sort of getting a running start into blocks out of the backfield, that destroyed everybody else. But when you don't sub and you have more versatile players on your defense than the other team has on offense, it doesn't matter if you put the window dressing on it. They're not buying anything off the street. So it just, they ran up against it again and again, and there were opportunities. I even think back to the game that we both agree, the playoff game, the divisional round game, which was over at the opening kick, right? It's 7-0 immediately off the jump. But even you watch that first drive that the Niners have, and there were several opportunities on that drive, including, I would argue, the 4th down option pitch from Juszczyk, where you're like, man, if they just executed this, which is easier said than done because, Drake Thomas on that play particular was incredible at resetting the edge. Mafe was incredible. Like, the Seahawks outplayed him on that, but you can see tactically how that could work. McVay's not playing that game. McVay knows the weaknesses are slot, tight splits, and the deep over-the-top shot on top of getting out on the edge. And I just thought he executed it perfectly. Kyle's going to have to really fundamentally reevaluate how he wants to go against it because he's had a lot of problems against Brian Flores, who runs, at least in theory, well, not theory, in spirit, a very similar defense, a chaotic defense. He has never gotten over the hump against Mike Macdonald. Say what you will about week 1 of this season, that was just not the Seahawks defense that we saw at the end of the season. And we go back to 23 when he was the defensive coordinator of the Ravens, and they just got their asses kicked. And those chaos defenses, as I like to call them, where they're coming from all angles, you don't know who's coming, who's going. The protections are always going to be screwed up because of the versatility and athleticism of the defenders. You got the power up front. You got the speed and dynamicism out wide. Kyle's going to have to match man for man. This is basically a guns war now. You cannot scheme your way out of this. Who has the bigger guns, and right now nobody has bigger guns than the Seattle defense.
Well, there's nowhere to go. You can't run wide because they're faster than you, and you can't run up the middle because they're bigger and stronger than you. So, I mean, I think that's really at their core. They're going to have to decide what exactly they're going to do to try to compete, because they're clearly don't have the strength with their three interior, Burford, Pooney, and Brendel, to move Seattle's interior.
No.
And they don't have the speed to beat Seattle to the edges. So that means you can't run. If you can't run, you can't win. So it's like that's a big part of it. And it's like when they're rebuilding this thing, they got to figure out exactly what do they want to build. They need a ton of speed for sure, but they also need a really hard charging running back to go with McCaffrey and a couple real bulldozer type offensive linemen.
Yep.
And they need to rebuild their defense on all three levels, most notably on that second level at linebacker, where they're just woefully not good enough. Now, some of the stuff that's being talked about is like, Fred Warner. It's only a matter of time. Next year, we're going to win it all. I guarantee it next year. It's like,
cool.
That sounds good, but I mean, sorry, Fred, I'm not with you on that. And it's like, then Kawakami, which, I love Kawakami. I like Kawakami. I think he's interesting. I like reading him. But I mean, he's like, well, the Niners might be the third best team in their division, but they might be the third best team in football. And I'm like, let's not play that game.
Still third.
It's like, that's just bullshit. I mean, sorry. The Niners don't have a Christian Gonzalez. They don't have a Marcus Jones. The Patriots are pretty good. The Rams are pretty good. The Broncos have a pretty good defense, and they had a ton of sacks this year. You had 20. Nick Bonito is more than you have. Niners don't have a Nick Bonito.
No.
And then you got Buffalo. You got the Lions, who were banged up this year, but they're pretty damn good. You got the Eagles, who are pretty good. I'm just saying, it's like, let's not pretend that the 49ers
a large conversation. If you want to delude yourself into thinking that the Niners are the third best team in football, I actually can't. There's an argument that can be made. It's a stretch. It is a level of incredulity that
an easy schedule.
I can't get with. Well, it ended up being the exact same schedule as the Seahawks, strength of schedule wise. So,
but I mean, it was an overall. They had a very favorable situation. I know the DVOA said that it was tough and this and that, but they still had a somewhat favorable schedule.
Yeah, no, I'm not arguing that they didn't have, and they lost to the good teams.
They're a good team among several good teams.
Let's lay it out this way.
I think that's as far as anybody should take it. If you go beyond that, like if you really go into this offseason going, you know what? It's just Seattle and the Rams, and other than that, we're on our way to the Super Bowl.
No,
it's like,
yeah.
no.
It's and a bunch of
way
other
to
dudes.
Absolutely nothing, because you have no good young players. So that's really
I don't know about that. That seems like a bit of a stretch too.
Well,
it's
I mean,
clearly
Purdy,
the Seahawks won, the Rams 2,
right.
And then everybody else fighting for 3 through 10, 3 through 12, and the Niners could very well, with a good offseason, get themselves to 3. And maybe that gap between 3 and 2 gets very tight. But it's going to take a lot of regression from Seattle to come back to the pack. They are far and away better than anybody, and I include the Rams.
We'll project, but we're going to live in the present. And in the present, they look old. They don't have a big deep core. They don't have, the Seahawks have a ton more youth. They've got a lot more, salary cap room. They're, So I'm not saying it's doom and gloom for the Niners, but let's not pretend that like they're really on the verge of something great.
No.
They're not.
No, they can give themselves a damn good puncher's chance with the right offseason. They could also completely screw themselves out of any contention with a bad offseason. So They are on the precipice. It's a cool place to be because, again, you can you can reinvent yourself enough to where you still have somewhat of a floor. You can do some stuff that's maybe outside of your comfort zone, again, just pick an identity on offense, a new identity on offense, one that's different from the one you've had for almost 10 years now. You can pick a new identity on defense with a new defensive coordinator who's very pragmatic in how he wants to go about his business, and you can do that with free agency and draft picks and such, and there's enough holes on the roster that you can fill those with guys who might not go with the same model, the same type that you've had before, and that can create a new identity for your defense. You can do those things because, again, there is enough talent on this roster. You have the quarterback in place. You have Nick Bosa to whatever degree he's worth. You have Fred Warner to whatever degree he's worth. You have an Upton Stout. There's guys here that you can absolutely work with and you can be positive about. But you have to make the right calls on all these, not all of them, but most of these vacancies, especially the ones that are most glaring. And if you do that, you have an opportunity to not just get yourself back into the ring as the 49ers as we've always known them, but to be kind of a new and different 49ers operation for the better, which is probably what's necessary to compete in an NFL that has dramatically changed over the last 3 years, over the last 5 years, over the last 10 years since Kyle Shanahan took the job.
Niners have $57 million in salary cap room. They've got 40 of 53 spots projected on their 53, somewhat filled.
Okay.
I mean, that's a little,
Yeah. Like Braden Willis is coming to camp. I don't want to see Braden Willis come day one of the season, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I would be moving off of a number of players. But, like all teams, the Niners have between 15 and 25, spots up for grabs. That's pretty much. I mean, some teams may have 15. Some teams more.
Seattle
25.
might have 10, but it's still
Seattle's, and some of them, will be filled. They'll be filled somehow. Free agency, veterans, veteran free agents, college free agents, draft picks, trades, or that's basically it. So what I thought, and by the way, we are off and running. We never thanked our sponsors. We are brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out, and they do run out.
Yep.
And they're opening in 2026 in Petaluma. So check them out. And also quick shout out to our friends at Sleeper. You already know Sleeper for fantasy football and daily fantasy, but they also rolled out something new called Team Picks. That's right. Team Picks is built right into the Sleeper app and lets you make simple predictions on game outcomes instead of worrying about player stats or setting lineups. You're just choosing which team you think is going to win. Real easy. It's designed to be straightforward. It's easy to understand, especially if you like following games closely, but don't want to deal with all sorts of extra, complexity.
Right.
So if you're already on Sleeper for fantasy, it's right there waiting for you. And if you're new, Sleeper continues to be an all-in-one platform for following your teams and staying connected to the action. So check that out.
Yes, sir.
Thanks to Sleeper for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. All right. So Niners have some money to spend. We'll see if they're going to spend it or not. Jed York says, hey, we're always competitive. And then he said, well, he was doing an interview with Alex Sherman. He said, we'd like to, we don't want to just sign anybody. We want to sign difference makers. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And then, of course, that's kind of nebulous. So it's hard to know exactly what difference makers are.
There's a lot of teams out here being like, yeah, we'll take anybody.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like, does that mean you're going to sign Javon Hargrave for another $20 million?
Right.
But here's the thing. I just decided we're going to do our rebuild of the Niners. And, but before we get to that, there's a couple headlines I do want to hit. And one of them is that the 49ers unbelievably have another player who was shot.
Yeah.
This is an unbelievable thing. I mean, Keon White, Niner defensive lineman, who's about 6'5", 290.
Big boy.
Just a monster of a guy, was shot in the ankle early this morning in downtown San Francisco, say around 4 a.m., according to the team. He's in surgery. The team made a statement. Keon White was a victim of a shooting and sustained a bullet wound to his ankle this morning in San Francisco. He's currently undergoing surgery. at a local hospital. We will provide further updates when appropriate. I mean, first of all, I mean, San Francisco in the grand scheme of things, this is somebody I've scouted football players. I've traveled the country extensively. Sometimes they'll have these charts up. Like, the average American's been to 4 of these cities, and I will have been to like 17 of them. I mean, it's like I've been everywhere in the country for the most part. And San Francisco, whatever warts it has, it's not a violent city.
No,
it's not. I mean, I've been to Philly, I've been to Chicago, I've been to New York, I've been to Boston, I've been to LA. It's not like small town America where I can't imagine anything happening.
right.
But it's not a murder, high murder place or violent crime place. You're going to have some randos, drug addicts, and that kind of thing going on, but it's not a lot of violent crime. There just isn't.
Yeah.
So for 49ers to have been shot in San Francisco in the last couple of years is absolutely startling, unbelievable. I mean, give me your thought on this. We don't have a lot of information on this, but give me just your thought. I mean, Ricky Pearsall, for those of you who don't know, was shot. It's a guy tried to steal his watch at Union Square a year or two ago, and luckily the bullet went through his chest and out his back. I mean, it's just unbelievable good fortune for Ricky. And hopefully Keon White will have no, misfortune other than what we already know. Hopefully he's going to be okay. But I mean, what's your thought when you hear this?
I'm kind of story. Listen, I really am not victim blaming here, but like, you're hanging out at a Super Bowl party. So everybody's been, I mean, there was a bunch of shootings everywhere in the country. There's, shooting in San Jose last night. People are loaded from 2:00 in the afternoon all the way until, what good is there being out at 4:00 in the morning? Even Keon White is, by every minor interaction, I don't know him on any sort of a deep level. He's a heady, sharp dude. We're all entitled to let loose every now and again. He just had a long season. He gets traded. Hey, let's go out in San Francisco. But like, general rule of thumb, nothing. You're getting hairy after midnight, and nothing good happens after 2. So it's, again, not Keon White's fault that some jackass who's probably loaded up on 40 Red Bull vodkas is waving around his piece and accidentally shoots him in the ankle, from what we can gather here. But it's like, we got to all be smarter about that, because while San Francisco is not a place where you are statistically likely to get shot, I'll tell you what, the statistic likelihood is a lot higher when it's 4:00 in the morning and everybody's been drinking since 2. And, now you're stepping to my girl and we're going, pulling out whatever. We all got to be a little bit smarter about that. And thank goodness Keon is not there. Coming off the Ricky thing, which is just like, there's no rhyme or reason or anything to that. And again, it's not to discount the severity of it at all, but it's just like, how do you prepare for something that preposterous and that broad daylight, right? I don't know, but I think guns are everywhere. We all got to be way smarter about it, because there's a lot of people who do not give a fuck about life or property or anything, and that's all around, and especially when folks are just getting loaded from 2:00 in the afternoon, and they're still out at 4. I don't think there was a single good decision made in anywhere in San Francisco besides the people who were sleeping at that hour.
Yeah, no, I mean, well said. Okay, couple more thoughts. I and I don't really have any thoughts on Keon White. I mean, I've interviewed him a couple times. He's a good guy, and wrong place, wrong time. It's funny though. I mean, it's like 4 a.m. in San Francisco. It's like, dude, there ain't nothing around but trouble.
No,
if it's 4 a.m. in New Orleans, heck, you could have a good time. Heck, there might be even some restaurants open and.
By the way, people like
it's just
people
not
are going
4
to
a.m.
try
in
to
San
make
Francisco
it
is not
bigger thing. I mean, there's Tank Dell missed the whole season. He got shot at a party. I mean, it's you got to be careful on who you're hanging around with. I actually feel bad for Keon.
Of course,
likelihood is very low that he knew very many of the people who were around. So that's it absolutely totally sucks. And for the Niners, it's this is such a trivial aspect of all of this, but on the back end, whenever this thing he's done with surgery and it's all cleared up and he's healing, like it's an issue for the Niners, because the one spot that I would have argued they were in as good of a position as any was defensive end, with having Keon White now being a backup, where you have Bosa coming back, Mikel coming back whenever that might be. I'm not predicting week 1 or anything, but he's young, very young. So you got those two guys coming back. That should be your starting 1-2. You get Bryce Huff as a situational edge rusher, which now he's not having to play 30, 40 snaps a game. That's a big boost. Sam Aquanu was really good for them this year as sort of a 5-tech, 7-tech on the strong side. That's a real positive. And then you get Keon White, who you can play in and out, and you're like, damn, defensive end. Like, yeah, you need to add another one because you need 6, but like, that 5 is as good as anybody in the leagues if you're talking about a 4-man, even front. But now you just don't know. That gets thrown into jeopardy here, and it's a shame that it's thrown into jeopardy on something that is so inherently avoidable, even if it wasn't avoidable at the moment for Keon White.
Yeah, I mean, it could be anything, right? It could be, hey, it was just grazed him and it's a flesh wound and he'll be fine for training camp, or it could shattered his ankle and he'll never play again. Who knows?
The notion that there's surgery doesn't lend a lot of positivity. I mean, Ricky Pearsall didn't have to have surgery, so there's something.
Yeah, I mean,
there's something not so fun in there.
A bullet hole in your ankle. I mean, that's all those little bones in there. I mean, it just seems like a disaster.
Be careful. Make good decisions, everybody. You don't need to be out at 4:00 in the morning. We all got work.
I know. By the way, this is the official beginning of the NFL offseason, and we're 73 days away from the draft in Pittsburgh. We're 14 days away from the combine. We're 28 days away from day 1 of free agency, 48 days away from the league meetings. As I said, 73 days away from the draft, 93 days away if you're the schedule release guy. Get
it on. You better get on with it, and you better leak it to me about 90 days out.
154 days out from training camp. If you're that guy, if you need preseason, you're 178 days from pay dirt. And
do you think the Niners play in that game in Canton?
Probably.
Yeah.
200, and you're 213 days away from week 1. So there you go. You're all set. All right, so this is what we're going to do. We decided we're going to do this little exercise. And Dieter and I, we'll do a bunch of different things over the course of the offseason. We'll do mock drafts and that kind of thing. But I was talking to Brian Peacock today, and Peacock made a good point. He said him and Crocker are doing a mock draft. And I'm like, wow, okay. And I don't feel like as much of a loser because those guys are doing a mock draft in this early in the year. Then at least we're strength in numbers. It's like,
sure,
we may be losers, but we're losers together.
That's right. We're all hanging out in my mom's basement.
Exactly.
She's bringing down orange slices and pizza rolls.
But it's funny because he said the same thing that Al Sacco said, which is the same thing that Kyle Shanahan said when talking about the offseason. He said, we got to get faster, speed. And it's interesting because on one hand, you got to have some heft in the middle of your line to move some of those some of those big, strong defensive tackles that reside now in your division. And don't think and there's tons, because Walter Nolan, by the way, is just getting it warmed up, and he is going to be awesome. So he might be the best interior player in your division, and he really is. You're not even thinking about him right now.
Yeah.
Think about that for a second. So your division's loaded. You're going to play a bunch of games against guys who are really good in the middle, and the Niners, don't have anybody to really move those guys. And even Richard Sherman said it. Hey, look, you can't move Seattle's defensive line. You really can't beat Seattle, and I kind of believe that. So on one hand, they need speed. On the other hand, they need heft. But they need speed across the board. And I'll say this, after watching the rise of the Niners, it reminded me that, you know what? The Niners had Joe in 80, and they still sucked.
Yes,
and they had Walsh in 80, and they still sucked. And what was the big difference is in 81, they got Hacksaw Reynolds, and he was a fearsome interior defender. And they added Ronnie Lott, and he was a fearsome safety / corner. And they added Eric Wright, and he's one of the greatest Missouri. You should have seen Eric Wright the year he came out, Dieter. I mean, he was so much the best athlete at that position in the league.
Yeah.
As a rookie, it was like, what? Look at this
That's
guy.
awesome.
He's 6'2", and he's strong as hell, and he's nasty, and he's a great smothering corner. Eric Wright was like almost better than Ronnie in some ways.
Yeah.
And then you had Carlton Williamson, very, very violent, physical, strong safety. Then they traded for Fred Dean, who at the time was like your Myles Garrett.
Yep.
And so all of a sudden they went from a defense in 80 that was just horse shit, just terrible. Couldn't stop anybody, to a fearsome, hard-hitting, intimidating group with Hacksaw and Ronnie and those guys. And they all showed up in 1 year. Okay. And that's really what that was. And that's kind of what I think the Niners need. They need, do they need road graders inside with some power? Yep. Do they need speed across the board? Yep. No doubt. Especially at receiver. But they also really need some fearsome, fast, futuristic type NFL defenders, the kinds of guys that John Schneider keeps finding for Seattle. So I decided we would come up with tonight. We'll fill their needs. And the needs, as I defined them, are number 2 quarterback, running back, 2 wide receivers,
fair,
tight end, defensive tackle, and I'm really thinking, because I like Collins and I like West, you need to have a guy that goes with them. So you need really a defensive tackle who's a great pass rusher.
Yeah.
An offensive tackle. It doesn't have to be a guy who can play right now, but you better get somebody in the late rounds that you like as a developmental guy. You got to have an interior player that can absolutely play like week 1.
You need a starting left guard.
You may need a couple interior players, but you definitely need a starter.
Yep.
Either at center or guard or both. Preferably somebody who can play both. You need an edge rusher. You need 2 linebackers.
Yes.
You need 1 safety, but it has to be a difference maker, a true difference maker. Can't just be a late round throw in.
Don't be bringing
It's
this.
got to be. It's got to be, somebody who can really play.
Okay.
And you need a big, smothering, physical corner.
Yep.
That's what I think their needs are. And so we're going to go through and we're going to fill their needs, and I'll let you go first, and we'll just go right down the list. And maybe before we do that, maybe I should hit a super here. Let's see.
Sounds good.
We do have a couple supers. Actually, my vision is so blurry right now because I just had my contacts changed. I'll bring them up. You read them.
Yeah, I can read them. That's no problem.
Okay, here we go.
Dieter Larry, if this is the best defense of the last 15 years, would the 2024 Eagles beat them on offense? I don't think so.
Would the 24 Eagles beat this year's Niners?
Seattle Seahawks.
Oh no, I think this year's Seattle Seahawks.
No.
Who was that, by the way? That was
that's Kid Trickster.
Kid Trickster. Thank you, Kid Trickster. All right.
It's a good question though, because the Eagles were a more well-rounded team. So the Eagles had this really impressive defense. It certainly would have given the Seattle more of a problem than New England's did. New England had a good above average, maybe even top 10 level defense. Milton Williams was fantastic. We also saw what Gonzalez could do. I like both of the kids out of Cal. But Robert Spillane, that's not going to get the job done. And then, so they were a more well-rounded team. That would be a game without a question. But
they couldn't control K9. I mean, K9 really was thought to be a great back coming out of college. He was great at Wake. He was great at Michigan State.
Yeah.
He was great in college. And then he just never quite made it happen. And then this year, his walk year, his free agent year, I don't know. I mean, I'm maybe calling me a little skeptical.
No.
He found his moment. He was like one of the best running backs in the entire league by the end of the year because his combination of speed, balance, explosiveness, power, he just has some ways where he can get outside where there's no room.
Yeah.
And he's just very, very explosive turning the corner. He looks so good right now. It's like somebody's going to pay him a ton in free agency.
And they can have him because he can't block, he can't catch, and he kind of runs his own play, which I don't know. I mean, there's a reason Zach Charbonnet got a hell of a lot of run for that team and looked very good. There's a reason that George Halani, the undrafted free agent who was one of Jake's favorite players a couple of years ago out of Boise, looked pretty good too. Now, they are not Kenneth Walker. They do not have those specs, but like my favorite thing about Kenneth Walker, and this is a compliment and a derogatory statement, like they call a play in the huddle and then Kenneth Walker runs what Kenneth Walker wants to run so long as it's blocked for him, which is an incredible trait to have until it isn't. And
he's got a little Barry Sanders in him. He'll declare the hole, jump in it. He's athletic enough to jump out of the hole, declare another hole, and make it work. But it's like not necessarily preferred.
No, but someone's gonna fall for it in the same way that we did the same thing with Le'Veon Bell back in the day. And I like Kenneth Walker. He's an upstanding citizen. He's a hell of a running back. He's a Super Bowl MVP. Go get your money. But it wouldn't shock me at all if Seattle let him walk this offseason. And that's telling. If Seattle's letting you walk, that would be.
Well, maybe not now that he's a Super Bowl MVP, but yeah, I think that was the plan. Well, who's what do we got here?
This is Brad Jones, 1907. Eddie D did not re-sign Deion Sanders. Steve Y pissed. That is a factual statement.
Well, first of all, Eddie D signed him to a 1-year, $1 million deal. Dallas came the next year and offered him $13 million a year, and Eddie was like, "All right, they let him walk." I mean, Deion wanted to get his ring. He came to the Niners as a mercenary to get the ring. He got the ring. He played for less, but then he wanted to get paid after they won the ring. And the Niners already had a loaded roster. The cap is, they had no ability to pay for him at that juncture. So he just left.
It was a beautiful 1-year thing, but that it was not. They knew it was not going to be for a long time.
Right. It was a beautiful wham bam, but it was not a long-term deal.
This is Michael. I think that's Recky. I don't know. R3K8Y. I can't read that.
Okay.
But, Georgia offensive tackle Monroe Freeling, who is a very hot name right now, is Joe Staley-like athletically. He's impressive for 6'7", 315. Niners need to get serious about the O-line in this division. The second point is one that everybody's been making. Monroe Freeling is a tackle through and through. And I think as we get into this process here, at least I'll disagree on if they should get someone who's truly a tackle, especially at the premium draft position, like 27 in the case of Freeling, that it would cost. So certainly a name to watch. I've really enjoyed his tape. I think that
tackles get overdrafted, so he's going to go in the first round most likely.
He's definitely going in the first round. I'm not personally against 27. I'm just not sure that's the best allocation of assets.
Yeah, I to me, there's a lot of tackles that, the one thing you just can't have. You can't draft a tackle and then have him show up in camp and realize he's a guard, because that's a nightmare.
But enough about Will Campbell.
So that's a real problem, though. So that's what a lot of scouts are worried about.
This guy's not. He's too.
No, he's not a guard
to be a guard. He can't.
No, he's not a guard. But I'm just saying, you got to make sure. There's a lot of guys who come out. This is a really hard position to fill. Why? Because it's really hard to find guys this big who have the kind of athleticism and footwork that can move and stay with these edge rushers. The Will Andersons of the world are freaking nuts.
Right.
So the job has never been harder, and it's really, really rare. And so now something's got to give, right? Because you can't find guys with the body type you want and the feet. So now what's given is the body type. Now they'll just put the guy out there who's got the best feet, and then the big body guy is now playing guard. It used to be House Ballard played tackle. Right. Now the big bodied guy like Mekhi Becton, he regressed this year, but he's a guard.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a tackle. The footwork is the premium trait for the tackle. So if you can find the big man, I mean, even like Chargers, they went first round for Rashawn Slater and Alt.
Right.
Well, they're both out with major injuries. They don't move all that. I mean, they move really well for gigantic men, but they're gigantic men. Yeah. So it's like they're not going to have that ability where some of the, like Lane Johnson has movement ability like a small man, even though he's 310 pounds or whatever.
I mean, he's bigger than that. I mean, and again, we're operating in a world when we see Trent Williams, who's got a big old boiler on him, and yet moves like a ballerina. And then if you try to overpower him, save for this year with the knee stuff, um, he just absolutely engulfs you. Like everyone wants that. The problem is those guys go in the top 5 because
Yeah.
if somebody like that shows up in the draft, they'll never make free agency. The only way that the 49ers got him is because he was going to retire from football if Washington didn't trade him and he needed a new contract at top dollar. Those guys are just not available to a team like San Francisco unless they can find a diamond in the rough. And this might be the kind of class where you can do that, but man, you're really getting into the rough if you're looking for that. So
Yeah.
this is Jalen LeGrant, 7742. Need to duck safety, intimidation, and playmaking. I presume he's referring to Thiemann. Yeah.
Yeah, he's if he was John Lynch, I'd be all about that. I don't know how well he's going to move. I got to see him play a little bit more.
This is Silent, spelled funny. Is Shanahan just the third best head coach in the NFC West? To steal a line from Tim Kawakami, that might make him the third best coach in football.
I think Shanahan's a better, even though McVay's got the rings, I think he's a better coach than McVay. I like McVay a lot, and McVay's gotten the rings, right? But there's a lot that goes into getting those rings, and McVay has done some of the really most questionable coaching things I think I've seen this year.
He's a little bit on tilt this year. I will say
he's a great coach, but he makes some really bad decisions. I mean, like his run pass ratio in the Bears game made no sense at all when you can factor in the weather and but he wanted to put the ball in Stafford's hands, so he believes in Stafford. So I mean, I get that, but it was a run the ball kind of a night.
The long running joke that we've had on Dieter and Hutch is that Sean McVay's always a year too early and Kyle Shanahan's a year late on whatever Sean McVay did last year. So there is something to be said for game management, which is not exactly Kyle Shanahan's strong suit for what it's worth. He's much better at it now, but I wouldn't call him like an elite manager of the game. I think that Shanahan's play calling and offensive innovation is probably not top tier anymore, but still cream of the crop. It'll be interesting to see how that looks in 5 years from now because he'll still be a head coach 5 years from now. But McVay, when we're talking about system builders and somebody who has a real keen both eye for talent and roster building along with Les Snead, because Sean's voice carries the most weight by far in that building, he's really as good as it gets. He's the ultimate pragmatist. Kyle's the ultimate idealist. And the recent Super Bowl champion Mike McDonald is the man who was put on earth to kill both of them.
We got 2 more here.
We got Noam Ill 49er. Seahawks D giving me nightmares since week 5. Need speed and power. Not enough draft picks and cap space. Talk me off the lodge or the ledge, I believe is the.
Well, I mean, first of all, you have money to spend more than you had last year. You sat out the undrafted market. You don't need to do that this year. You have a number of draft picks, and you have Jones, who could easily give you a couple more assets. You could always trade back to add even more assets. I think they're sitting in a pretty good spot, to be completely honest. We'll see. I mean, you still got to hit, right? You got to hit, but I think there'll be enough capital to fill their spots. It's just going to be about, do they pick the right guys? And we have this last one here. We have 2
Brad
more.
Jones, 1907. Out of the free agents on the Seahawks D, which one would you guys go after? Larry, I believe you have the answer to this question.
Well, yeah. I mean, I like a number of them because I think Mafe is a really twitchy edge rusher who, in a wide 9 situation, could be a very, very good player. But I would say Tariq Woolen, just because the 49ers, I mean, you got to be able to set the edge in the run game. I think big corners can do that. I think Woolen has been inconsistent, but I think there's huge talent there. I think he'll be more cost effective or cheaper in the marketplace because he has had some bumps in the road, and corners, people remember their bumps in the road. But I like Woolen. I think Woolen is a big corner who just needs a little bit of refinement and a little bit of top tier coaching. If he got a really good coach, and Raheem Morris is considered to be a very good defensive backfield coach,
Yeah.
I would say, if I had to guess, I would say Kobe Durant would be a corner that would be a Niner because he was really tight with Raheem in LA. So I could see Kobe Durant coming to the Niners, but I think the free agent corner I would go after is Woolen.
I'd be all over Kobe Bryant, the safety. He's
Thorpe Award
he's a
winner
game
at
changer.
Cincinnati.
He's the second best safety on that team, but that doesn't mean he ain't a great safety. He's really, really good.
Yeah.
M. Bayless, 4788, apologies if I mispronounced that. Would Mahomes have fared better against Seattle with what, one knee?
I mean, Mahomes in Seattle, Kansas City's offense has regressed significantly.
No, Kansas City's actually in a really interesting spot. I was asked by Jake earlier today. Actually, we were asked by a sicko if Kansas City's a good bet for next year, and I think that Kansas City gets to take kind of a gap year here off of what was a bad year for them, in that you don't really want to rush Mahomes back. He's under contract forever. You're going to probably not have Kelsey. They need to rebuild that offense. They have the offensive line now. I like a lot of the moves they made there, but they need a whole new wide receiver core. They're going to need to attack tight end in a very serious way with multiple additions. Running back is a complete nothing for them right now, so they get to figure out what to do there. They need to take the year and between this offseason and next, rebuild that entire offense to better fit the style, because this effort that they did to have crazy speed and then anything underneath would just be Travis Kelce. I mean, that thing crashed and burned like the Hindenburg this year. So they need to reevaluate everything, and they kind of get a cool chance to do that because of Mahomes' injury in a weird, twisted way.
I think they're done. I don't think they're ever going to win again. I really do. I think it's a young man's game, and I think Mahomes is going to spend his 20s winning championships and not even realizing how difficult it was, and then he's going to spend his 30s chasing championships and realize absolutely how difficult it is.
I remember a young Thomas Brady might have had a little bit of a gap in between his two runs, so I wouldn't count out Mahomes on anything just yet, but it is.
No, I hear you.
It is an easier prediction, and that's not to say that I think it comes across as a hot take. It's very, very difficult to win championships, much less one. It's hard to win. So the idea that they take one gap year and then they're right back in it, constantly winning the AFC is inherently farcical. But how many years does Andy have left in the saddle? I mean, the second Andy goes, doesn't this whole thing kind of go? You're not replacing Andy Reid. So, it's
they're old too. I mean, Kelsey's old. Chris Jones is old.
Right.
There's a lot of talk they're going to trade the slot corner who's so good, McDuffie.
Yeah.
This year for maybe a first round pick, so I think they're breaking up. They're going to have to, they're kind of like the Niners. They got to find their next core of great players. Almost all their best players are older players. And
I trust,
nothing wrong with that.
I trust Veach to do it, man.
Yeah. Veach is a pretty good GM.
He's really, really good. And they have the one thing that everybody's searching for, which is not just a quarterback, but a fundamental, we always have a chance quarterback. I mean, there's maybe one of them in the league. You can maybe make the argument that Allen is two. That's about it. We didn't see either of those guys in the Super Bowl, and that is with May coming off of an MVP caliber season in the regular season. We saw what happened in the playoffs, minus 41.7 EPA in the playoffs in 4 games for Drake May. I mean, it's the worst playoff run of any player that kept playing. And so the idea that, counting out Patrick Mahomes is both the easiest and the hardest thing to do, right? Because deep down somewhere, and this is kind of the argument that I might make if we were trying to make an optimistic case for the 49ers, like, they have the guy. Now, there is obviously going to be plenty of discourse on how good that guy is, but Stafford, who knows? Like, legitimately, who knows? That could have been the last hurrah. They certainly have a better quarterback than anybody Arizona's trotting out there. And they have a better quarterback than Seattle has out there, even though Sam Darnold's got a ring. So in their division, they stand up at quarterback. The problem is quarterback in this day and age, as cool as it is, as important as it is, quarterback ain't everything. You got to have the team around you too. And the Niners team is lacking compared to what the Rams and certainly the Seahawks are tossing out year in and year out over the last couple.
All right. So now we are at a point where we're going to hit this fast. We'll just go right down the list. And basically we'll start with number 2 quarterback. Who do you have as your number 2 quarterback?
I'm going to immediately break the rules of your game, Larry. The guy I have as your number 2 quarterback is Mac Jones. I don't think they're trading him, but
you believe them.
I believe them because I know how much this team gets jazzed up, and that's all I'm going to say. I mean, I could use some more vulgar blue language. How obsessed they are with comp picks. They think about comp picks all the time. It's a joke from the facility. Not a lot leaks out of 49-49, but I'll tell you this, the jokes about how much everyone talks about comp picks leak out, and I've been telling people for years. I mean, it's that's farcical too. Mac Jones is going to get them a comp pick, probably a 3rd-round comp pick at the end of next year. Now, that wouldn't pay out for a while, but he is in their minds worth a 3rd-round pick. I know that there is going to be some desperation on the market. I'm not saying that Mac Jones isn't worth more than a 3rd-round pick, but the Niners are going to have to probably get a top 50 pick in this upcoming draft to move off of Mac Jones. And unless Minnesota's really feeling desperate, and I just don't get the sense that they are, and things can change, and my information can be bad, but unless they're willing to move number 49 to San Francisco for Mac Jones, I don't think that they move off him because they're viewing a 3rd-round pick is already in the stable, and they know the value of a backup quarterback. If any team should know it, it's a Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch-led team. You have to have a good backup quarterback. It's the only reason those guys are not literally on the hot seat right now. But to entertain the exercise, I'm going to give you a draft pick.
Oh, you're not going Mac Jones.
Well, I am going Mac Jones as the number 2 quarterback, but if we're going to play the exercise, and Mac Jones gets traded, Drew Aller in the 4th round. That would be my pick. Because I think Drew Aller, 5-star Heisman, Penn State, a guy who had all sorts of buzz. I've watched the film. I've watched a lot of Penn State film over the last couple of weeks as we've gotten into draft stuff. They've run up against a couple of teams where I've been scouting them pretty heavily, guys on the other team. And I'm watching a lot of Penn State just because I think they have a lot of really good draftable players on that roster as well. James Franklin, get this, a team that was in the semifinals 2 years ago, had a lot of good players, and they brought a lot of them back for this year, and it all crashed and burned. But Aller has the feet, he has the arm. Well, he has the feet in terms of moving out of the pocket. He has the arm. I think he sees the field really, really well. This is a guy who, going into this season, was getting talked about as the number 1 overall pick. And obviously things change and production matters. And he's going to need to fundamentally rebuild how he steps back from the snap and how he operates in the pocket with his feet. But a quality quarterbacks coach at the NFL level, given a year, can make that work. And I don't know if there's a more physically talented quarterback in this draft with a 6'5", 230-pound frame. I mean, this guy could be really, really special, and you're buying him at an extreme discount from where you had to be because of not necessarily his own fault, but because Penn State was just abysmal this year. He gets injured, and then it absolutely goes off the rails. So I would take a flyer on Drew Aller in the 4th because, well, if it doesn't pan out, whatever. As a 4th-round pick for a quarterback, teams have done a hell of a lot worse, including this team with the number 3 overall pick. But if it does pan out, now you have somebody who has the physical traits to be truly elite if he has his head on straight. And by all accounts, by everybody I've talked to, by everything I've read, this kid's got a really sharp noggin on him. I just think they'd be remiss not to take the flyer, even with a lot of needs. You just don't get talent like this on day 3 of the draft, and I think he'll be there.
It's an interesting prospect for sure. The 3 guys that I kind of like in the draft, I hated the guy when I saw him live in Baton Rouge earlier this year, Garrett Nussmeier against Florida. But Garrett Nussmeier, obviously, he was just LSU's horrible offense because he looked really good in the Senior Bowl.
He did.
He moved around naturally. He's the son of a coach.
Mm-hmm.
I think Garrett Nussmeier is going to be a pretty good NFL quarterback. So I like Nussmeier. even though I thought he looked terrible all year at
He
LSU.
was awful. He was injured all year too, to be fair.
Bad. I mean, really bad. I mean,
Yeah.
just really bad. But he looks really natural now. Cole Payton from North Dakota State is a lefty who's 6'3", 230, very,
Outstanding
very
Senior Bowl.
athletic. I mean, my God, he's really intriguing to me. And then, there's some other guys like Gronowski from Iowa, Haynes King from Georgia Tech that are kind of interesting. But the guy that I saw that I hadn't seen before that I really liked was Jacob Clark from Missouri State. And he's like 6'4", 220. He's a winner though, and he's led them from behind a bunch. And sure enough, in the All-Star game, he came from behind and led them to a victory. So I think I saw him in the whatever bowl, not the Shrine, the one that was the week before the Shrine.
The All-American Bowl?
Yeah, the All-American Bowl. Yeah. So there you go. I mean, Nussmeier, and to me, is probably going to be a second or third round pick.
Yeah, there's a lot of buzz about him moving.
So I don't think I would go for him there. Yeah. Peyton, I really like, but he's raw. But he's got a lot of upside.
I love how you mentioned a North Dakota State and an Iowa quarterback, as if the Niners are going back to those wells.
I know, but Gronowski's actually interesting because he's got a pretty good arm.
He does.
And there's something kind of gutty about him. Haynes King is tough. He's big and he's fast. He's athletic. He's tough.
Can't throw a lick.
Yeah, he's like one of those guys that just isn't quite ever going to get it.
He's a Tebow-like quarterback.
He's like Levis. He's kind of reminds me of Will Levis.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I would say Nussmeier would probably be my favorite. But as for this exercise, I think the Niners should do. I think this is a very important move because this is how John Lynch is going to get back even with Schneider and Snead. The one advantage the Niners do have is that because of Darnold, because of Mac Jones, and largely because of Purdy, they're a place where reclamation quarterbacks are going to sprint to. Mm-hmm. And part of it's Shanahan, part of it's Purdy. And then part of it's also that Purdy, guys are going to want to come here because, maybe Purdy gets hurt and, he's going to miss some games. And so I think there's the thinking on one hand from the prospect of let's go there. I may play. And then there's also, hey, let's go there. Look what happened with Darnold. Look what happened with Jones.
Get the pixie
and then
dust.
Some of that has to do with Kyle, but I think a lot of that has to do with Brock. So I'm going to say Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson's got plenty of arm talent. He needs the Niners in the worst way. Yep. He needs to come to the Niners. He needs his career saved. And I think it's savable. He's got a lot of arm talent, and I could see him playing 3 or 4 games with the 49ers, playing pretty well in Shanahan's offense, and then somebody saying, hey, yeah, we like him. We'll take him. We want him. So to me, he's the most likely. I like Anthony Richardson, but it's a little too big of a swing. And I'm just not 100% sure that he wants to be an NFL quarterback the way he kind of took himself out of a game. It's just, I kind of wonder about, but I love Richardson's skill set, arm strength, foot speed, size. I mean, he's just really intriguing. But I think I'd go Zach Wilson. I know it's unpopular. I know a lot of people be like, I hate that guy. Okay, yeah, but you hated Mac Jones last year at this time too. So you'll get to like him. He's got a big time arm. He's been humbled. He's ready to focus on his career. He's coming here hat in hand, humble, not like, oh my God, I'm gonna fucking.
He needs the Niners way more than the Niners need him.
Right, but also I think he's the best, safest chance to be able to turn him into a draft pick a year from now. You sign him to a 2-year deal, reasonable money, even lower than what Jones got, and that would be my guy, Zach Wilson.
My concern is that Mike McDaniel had him and never wanted to play him. He played Quinn Ewers over him, and I trust Mike McDaniel's judgment on offense maybe even more than I trust Kyle's. So,
but he liked Tua. And Tua doesn't read coverage.
Well, he didn't have a choice but to like Tua, to be fair. There's that was an arranged marriage. So, and look where it got him, Tua's got one more year before he's on the street, and Mike McDaniel is currently no longer a head coach. So, not all arranged marriages work. I know that technically they last longer. They can also end harder.
He could also win the Super Bowl in his home stadium next year. I mean, I would say the Chargers will have a very good chance of being in that game
until they realize they're the Chargers,
or until they lose all their players to injury.
Yeah.
All right, so let's jump to running back. Obviously, there's Christian McCaffrey. There's Jordan James.
Yep.
There's Garendo, if you believe in Garendo.
That's not a thing.
Am I missing somebody? Brian Robinson's leaving.
No, he's out. They're not going to re-sign him.
I'm interested in David Montgomery. If he's a cap casualty, I think he'd be a great back. There's other backs I really like.
Yeah.
But I like Kalen Black from Indiana.
Great back.
This guy is just the real deal. And he's tough as hell, and he's strong. He's small, but he's strong. He moves the pile. He's got tremendous heart. And to me, the heart of your running back in a way becomes the heart. It's like the heart of your offense. And I think Kalen Black, I don't know what he's got, but he'll give you everything he's got, and I think he'd be really nice.
I think he's a great value on day 3, to be sure. Impossible to disagree with that.
Fourth round, fifth round, something like that.
Something to that degree. I'd probably, fourth or fifth. He's burned by his position, right? If he was that productive at a different position for that kind of team, then he's a day 2 pick, right? Because you just go, you got to get this guy in. He's a winner. He's outstanding. My guy's not a name that's getting a lot of love right now in general. Though when I text people that I trust around the league, some of which are with teams, he universally gets praise. But it's not this big public Twitter bonanza of PR. Give me Tyler Algier, the running back for the Atlanta Falcons, who is just a bowling ball. And you think about what the Rams have with Kyron Williams and Blake Corum, with Corum really coming on late in the year. Algier is the template for what they want Corum to be. And the sell point for this, and first off, to be very clear, I have no earthly idea what he's going to cost in free agency. I have heard everything from $2 million a year to $15 million a year. No one has any friggin' clue what this guy's worth. So this is,
I would say he's like 2 years, $8 million.
Sure. Let's split. Yeah, fine. Like I have
$4 million a year for 2 years, something like that.
I'd give it to him because every time, there's people bitch and whine and complain about him all the time. Why is he getting carries? Give him to Bijan. He's getting carries because he runs the scheme effectively. He runs with power. Bijan does need rest, right? Like everybody does. You specifically, and even I have dabbled with, I don't know, maybe not Christian McCaffrey every carry. They didn't do that with Bijan. Then they released the beast late in the year, and my God, what a spectacular beast he was. I mean, Algier comes into his career, goes for 1,000 yards, and it's been diminishing ever since. But he has a nose for the end zone. He had 8 touchdowns last year. I just like the way he runs. I like him as a second option, and I think that the selling point is pretty straightforward. There's not going to be a team that's going to make you the bona fide number 1 back, which you probably could be, right? No one's going to do it, not with the trajectory of your career in terms of rushing yards and yards per carry and all that. So you were a 1B in Atlanta. Come and be the 1B for a San Francisco 49ers team that is definitely going to need a new starting running back come week 3 or 4 of this upcoming year. I think Christian McCaffrey does as good of a job as anybody in taking care of his body. Sorry, man. Like the likelihood that Christian McCaffrey goes for 250 carries again is next to nil. So, hey, you're not going to be a 1. Come to a place where you're going to get 1 snaps, even if we're not putting you number 1 on the depth chart going into week 1, because we all know what's coming down the pipeline here. And I think Tyler Algier is just a great change of pace guy. Raheem has a relationship with him. He can sell him as well. There are a lot of good options. Kenneth Gainwell is going to be a name that gets a lot of buzz, but this is not a position when you look at all the spots that you're going to need to allocate money to, particularly just thinking on offense with wide receiver and tight end, if not guard on top of that. You need to be prudent about how you spend. This guy can be a legitimate number 1. He can catch the ball. He can block on third down. He can do anything you need him to do at an above average level. And you need to have a guy like that backing up Christian McCaffrey, because you're going to need a guy to be your number 1 running back for a lot of snaps this year. And Tyler Algier is about as good as you can do on a good price point.
Yeah, I like that name. He's definitely a good veteran free agent. Um, I think it's going to be a great undrafted free agent market for the running
Always,
backs. I mean,
always.
Keyshawn Owens from Florida International, love him.
The
Absolutely
Panthers.
love him. Jamal Haynes from Georgia Tech,
Yep.
love.
Jamal Haynes that's a good name.
I
He
love
was
that
really
kid.
good.
The former Cal kid who went to Oklahoma and never played, Jaden Ott.
Yeah, I don't know.
Great athlete, man. Great
I
athlete.
get very conflicting reports about what happened with Jaden Knott, but I'll tell you, man, 2 years ago, Jaden Knott was hot to trot, man. He was fantastic for Cal. Not great that he couldn't see the field for an Oklahoma team that had no appreciable running backs. Like they could have used anybody. So a weirdness there. And then when he did see the field for limited time, he was just awful. I think he ran for like 2 yards a carry this year. So Ott's an interesting name. I wouldn't mind bringing him into camp as an undrafted free agent. But again, I was told for the 6 weeks prior to, for let's just say like a week or two before Thanksgiving, I was told like, hey, Jordan James is ready to go. Like, we love what we're seeing. We had to lay down the gauntlet early. There was a lot of coaching stuff that we had to work with him, but we feel like he's in a position where if CMC goes down, we can give Jordan James the ball. And then they didn't activate him for the rest of the year, and I looked like a complete jackass going like, I think this is a Jordan James week. I think this is a Jordan James week. And then gets those 3 carries against Seattle. I don't think you should read too far into those, but they look good. They look pretty good. And then Kyle comes out in the postseason press conference going, "Oh yeah, we've loved what we've seen from Jordan James the last 6 weeks." And I'm sitting there just pulling my hair out.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you can trust Jordan James to be the 1B for a guy that is going down. I think you have to have it be, if you have to go to him, so be it. He has to be your third option, and it could be a great third option for you. But if he's your second option, this offense isn't going anywhere next year.
Well, you just can't lean on it. You can't lean on a guy that gave you some run in July and some run in January. You know what I mean? It's like, even if there was other extenuating circumstances, there
Brian Robinson of it all.
Edge. You have to. He has to surprise you. Now, I will say this though. He's got the absolute ideal running back build. I mean, he is squatty and strong and powerful.
He likes to go into small spaces too.
Slow. He's slow.
Yeah.
And he ran a mid 4.55 time or whatever. I'm a little concerned about that. But I agree. I thought he looked good late in the year. He looked good catching the ball in the summer. But it's all that in between that worries me.
Yeah, all right, I'd rather spend $4 or $5 million and then get to week 1 and be like, oh, that was a waste, then be like, oh, we're going Jordan James, and then do what you had to do this year, which is, I don't know who's available. Give me Brian Robinson, who's going to run into the back of my offensive line 9 out of 10 times.
Right. I mean, the Brian Robinson thing, I mean, I don't know why they did that. Just made no sense.
I told you. He's a Jag.
I mean, but the thing is, I think he's better than that, but they didn't play him hardly. And then if you don't get the ball ever, it's hard.
He doesn't know the plays.
Well, I mean, I'll say this though, he was solid with the Commanders. I mean, and I think was he better or worse than JP Mason? I think overall he was probably the same kind of talent. He just didn't do anything because they didn't really use him. Yeah. They need more backs though. They got to have more backs. Let's talk about receiver though. Yeah. Because the one thing at receiver, Jerry Rice, who knows a little something about receiver.
So I've heard.
They said, "Hey, Jerry, what do you think?" He said, "They need some burners. They need someone who can stretch the field." But at the end of the day, you can have Xavier Worthy all day, all night. But is he the best receiver out there?
Yeah, how'd Golden work for the Packers this year?
Who's the best receiver? The best receiver are the guys who catch the ball. So you got to have speed for sure, and you got to have guys who complement one another. So it's nice to have some speed. The Niners, Shanahan knows the value of this, except they just Cowing, Watkins, Pearsall, they couldn't get any speed on the field. And then surprisingly, they didn't go for Cooks when Cooks was way faster than Bourne. Would have been a much better fit. Now they're looking at a wide receiver market that there's a lot of big names here. Carnell Tate, Mekhi Lemon, Jordan Tyson, Denzel Boston, Kevin Concepcion, Chris Bell, Zachariah Branch, Jacoby Lane. These guys are all big-time guys. Yeah. Jeremy Bernard, Malachi Fields looked incredible in the Senior Bowl. Ted Hurst from Georgia State, Kevin Coleman from Missouri, started at Mississippi State. Yep. There's a bunch of guys. I want to see. I got to have 2 guys who can run. I mean, they got to have some vertical speed. the two guys that I think I would be interested in, one would be um, Kevin Coleman from Missouri.
Yep.
Now, the guy was at Mississippi State. This guy's a blur. He's so fast. He's small, but he's really fast, and he can really run away from you.
Yep.
So, I mean, there's a lot of vertical there with Coleman. He's
ironically,
a
he was mostly a slant and over, and he was an over the field guy more often than not for Mizzou. Now that is
he's just an electric mover, though. I mean, at the next level,
punt returner, kick returner, they wanted him in space for sure.
This guy's dynamic. I don't know what he's going to run, but it's going to be in the 4.3s. I mean, that would be my guess.
I don't know, but I wouldn't worry about it because his play speed is elite.
And then I like Jordan Addison, and I know Addison it's a trade situation. I don't think it's going to take a lot to get him. I think a 4th round pick probably gets it done. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it'll be a 3rd, but I don't think so. I think it
might have to be Mac Jones straight up.
Or it could be Mac Jones, but Mac Jones has more value, I think, than Addison. But either way, I like Addison in some kind of a trade scenario, whether it involves Mac Jones or picks or whatever, because I think Addison is exactly the kind of receiver
I agree with
that the Niners need here. They need somebody. I mean, the one thing that stood out to me, and I watch film every single week, but I don't watch it, like I watched it when I was scouting in the Canadian League. I watch for different things that I want to see after I've watched the All-22. But I watched the playoff game start to finish, and it was one of the most startling games I've ever seen because I went into the film wanting to say, oh, this offensive line is horseshit. Get rid of this offensive line. And they weren't good.
No.
But
it wasn't entirely.
It wasn't offensive.
Right.
What was offensive was the absolute zero separation between any Niner receiver. Now, granted, Kittle went out early, but all of the Niner receivers on all of the plays in the entire game were blanketed, and there was no separation. None.
Yeah, Pearsall had absolutely zero wiggle in that divisional game. I'm watching him pretty intently, and it's the press box in Seattle is at kind of a bad pitch. Not complaining about it. It's a nice press box. There are infinitely worse, but it's at a strange height. It's a little too low. You can't really get the height. So I'm watching Pearsall, and I have to kind of lock in on him because, again, we're a little bit lower than in most stadiums. And
it was a little flat. You're not looking down on the field. You're looking kind of behind the bench almost.
You could see, I mean, I don't want to get too far into what Seattle wants to do on defense and how they basically dictated which side of the field Brock Purdy was rolling out to. But as they did to any quarterback who, outside of Drake May, who just decided to stand there. But they wanted Pearsall in one-on-one situations because very early on they saw that he couldn't move. He couldn't go left, he couldn't go right, and he couldn't come backwards. And I tell the story a lot, but I do think it's important to note, like, the first time Leonard Hankerson, the wide receivers coach for the 49ers, saw Ricky, he had like a religious experience because Ricky was so quick coming out of his break on just simple drills. And it was preternatural, change of direction ability. And then you see him against Seattle, and it's like 7 steps to move backwards 1. It was Willy Wonka. It was brutal to watch. You could only imagine how bad that knee hurt. It bought him back the credit he had almost entirely lost in the locker room, at least as far as I can tell, because he's out there, and he shouldn't have been out there. We're not going to do the whole relitigating Ricky thing. So I do think that you have to maybe take him as one in because he didn't play in Week 18, which is a big demerit. And then he shouldn't have been out there, but there was no alternative in the divisional game. I think Juwan walks. Cowing is not a thing. They're just figuring out ways to not put him on the field at this point because they don't trust him, nor should they. Watkins had a couple of opportunities, never really made it through. I know they keep saying like, "Oh, we thought that he couldn't overtake anybody," and then you look at the depth chart and you're like, everyone was getting injured and he couldn't overtake anybody. I mean, you were playing Malik Turner. Like, what the hell are we talking about? So And I know Malik Turner plays special teams, but you don't have to play him from scrimmage. So that's not great, though everyone can change. I mean, Tatum Bethune was a complete dud his first year, and he comes out and he was fine. He was a bog, well, not even that. He was probably the 32nd best middle linebacker in football this past year, which is, way better than I thought he would be. The two names that I have, I'm not allocating big resources to this. I think that they would be fine in doing so. I'm not advocating that you go cheap here, but with all the other needs, I shockingly went more trenches than at wide receiver. I think Jacoby Lane is going to fall in the draft. I think that he's not going to test well, and I think that he's going to be seen as somewhat of a one-trick pony. I really like him as an X receiver, and frankly, if I'm being very specific about what it is that the Niners need to
jump ball guy, so he's definitely a throw it up to him.
But he's big and he's physical, and the Niners need a true X receiver. They have not replaced Brandon Ayuk. Ricky Pearsall is supposed to be the Z, and Juwan Jennings is supposed to be your big slot who you can play at X so long as the splits are tight. They don't have an X receiver on the roster right now. They just don't have one. So you need to go and get X receivers because you're not. I don't think at 27 you're going to be able to get a true one unless Boston slides, and I'm not even sold on Boston yet.
Chris Bell will be there because of the injury.
I've watched the tape on Chris Bell. I'm not enamored. I'm going to give him 6-7 more looks, but we're in first impressions right now, just trying to get notes down on everybody for the draft guide. And the first go around, I'm like, I don't really get it, if I'm being honest. He doesn't play big, so that's a tell for me. I need somebody who looks like they can run a straight line pretty damn fast, but if they're in a one-on-one situation on the sidelines, they're throwing an elbow, they're knocking you out, and they're catching the ball. They need a true X. I'm going Jacoby Lane as a true X. I think he can be found in round 3 or round 4. I have him here as a round 4. And then the other name, and this is a flyer name, this is going to be right up your alley, Larry. Noah Thomas as an undrafted free agent, if he can get that far. A&M and then transferred to Georgia. He is
Big
raw
6', tall guy.
as
6'6".
raw gets, but he is fast and he is tall and he is big, and you just get him in there and see if it works out. Treylon Burks is another name to toss out there. There's probably not any juice to squeeze there, but he did get done pretty dirty by every stop he's made in his career. There is something to be said for getting bad coaching. I'm not saying this is a Sam Darnold-like reclamation project, but this was a first-round pick with the size and the speed to be a game changer at X receiver. And you play for the Tennessee Titans for a while, and you kind of lose your will to live when you don't have a quarterback who can throw a ball within 50 yards of you. I think Treylon Burks
can be. He's just a little stiff.
He's stiff. Yeah, but again, X receiver.
Yeah.
Right?
He's a rumbler. He's a big rumbling guy.
He can move now. I'm not saying that he's good in trying to separate or anything, but if you need somebody to just run and clear out so that the speedy guys that you're trying to add can get something underneath, you have to have a true X, and you have to have someone who can get hands on somebody and block on the edge, because that's what Seattle demands that you do. And the Niners' run game, again, tight ends and wide receivers really burned them in those 2 games against Seattle because they could not block on the outside. So it's not a great year to need multiple wide receivers, and you're probably going in with Demarcus Robinson as your starting X, which is not ideal. But I'd go with Lane and Thomas, and just hope you hit pay dirt on one of them.
The sleeper guy that I like receiver wise late in the draft, I love Dylan Bell from Georgia. I just think that he's just he showed at the All-Star game. He's got a little Debo. He's kind of thick lower body, but he's tough and he makes big plays. He can catch the ball. He did a lot of stuff within 5-10 yards of the line of scrimmage at Georgia, but in the All-Star game, he was making plays down the field. He looked really natural. And he's tough. He's a tough receiver. To me, toughness is the most underrated aspect of receivers. Yep. And to me, that's what I'm looking for.
Like what trait does Puka Nacua have?
Yeah,
other
he's
than
tough.
He's just the toughest son of a bitch on the football field.
How about Jennings?
Yeah.
Jennings is just tough. That's what I love about Addison. Addison is a skinny guy, but he is tough. Yeah, he's really tough. For sure. All right, tight end wise. Who are you going with at tight end?
Yeah, I
Niners
said
need
that.
another tight end. They don't have Kittle.
Oh yeah,
Um,
they might need two.
and they don't, they got Tonjes.
They have Tonjes.
They brought in Hayden Rucci from Penn State, who's a blocker, strong blocker. They have Farrell, who I could easily see being a cap casualty. I thought he was horrible.
I asked about him. I asked about him with somebody who is pretty damn good at telling me if that call's gonna be. I don't think they're gonna cut him because I think they're too desperate to need another tight end on top of what they already need. I think that's the wrong decision. I thought he was just god awful this year.
I mean, what would you say you do here? He doesn't do anything. He didn't block anybody. He's not strong inline blocker. He's very stiff. He doesn't catch. He's not elusive. There's all kinds of guys that are better.
He's awful. They've been awful at every tight end.
Who do you like? Who's the tight end? And this is an interesting one because there's some decent tight ends. There's some movement tight ends in the draft. I kind of like R.J. Maryland from SMU, who's Russell Maryland's kid.
I like the kid out of Houston. The
kid out of Houston, Kazoil or whatever, Kazoil or whatever.
Yeah.
He's definitely got 6'6" guy with great hands.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of guys who could be entering the market at this position because there's a lot of cap casualties. Cole Kmet,
maybe.
A bunch of them. There's like I saw the list. Evan Engram.
Yep.
There's a bunch of tight ends who make Colby Parkinson. I mean, there's a number of guys that could be out there. Which tight end do you want to add?
I think I mentioned him to you last week. Charlie Kolar, the third tight end for the Baltimore Ravens. Brock Purdy's tight end at Iowa State. He blocks like a sumbitch, and I think he has much sweeter mitts than anyone gives him credit for. He tested really well back in the day. He's coming from a finishing school in Baltimore. Nobody drafts tight ends better than the Baltimore Ravens. They got 4 of them that are damn good. They got 4 of them that, Isaiah Likely would be one of the 10 best tight ends in football if he played for another team.
He's a free agent.
He's a free agent. He's going to cost a pretty penny. I don't know what they do with Andrews, who's, just put in one hell of a football career. Is clearly on the other side of it. I would have to allocate some money to keep Likely around because you don't know how much you're getting from Andrews from this point on. And that, I think, gets Charlie Kolar to the market. And you toss a little bit of cash his way. I'm not talking anything crazy. I'm not talking double digits or anything. I'm not even talking half of that. And I think this is a diamond in the rough kind of player where, and this is blasphemy, but not unlike George Kittle, who had all this ability. I mean, George Kittle is one of the great receiving tight ends of all time. He caught like 37 passes at Iowa. So just because he hasn't done it doesn't mean he can't do it. I mean, it didn't take very long, but you go through all of Charlie Kolar's targets, and you're like, this is a good tight end. Like, why the hell don't they throw it to him ever?
Yeah, I mean, it's not always – I mean, Roger Craig didn't catch hardly anything at Nebraska. He's one of the greatest receiving running backs the league's ever seen. So, yeah, I mean, it's just, some coaches don't have they don't throw it to their running back.
Well,
they don't throw it to their fullback. They don't throw it to their tight end.
He's in there as a blocking tight end in heavy sets. Like, he's only in there if Andrews is injured, and then Likely's, and it's Baltimore's offense, which who the hell knows what that thing was this past year. I think Charlie Kolar's really, really good. I think that
it's cheap. I mean, it's a cheap addition for sure.
And you got an in. I mean, you got his quarterback from college. And you need a number one tight end for this season, and not just a number one tight end like a Tonjes, who I do think has the mitts to be a number one tight end. You need someone that you can put on the field for 45 to 50 snaps a game.
I agree.
You don't have to take off the field.
Do that? Because that's asking. He's never done that before. Let's just say that.
No,
not at the pro level.
No, he has not been on the field that much, but I mean, he is an unbelievably good blocker. Very sound, technically there. He drives dudes off of their
he's a really dependable player. I just wonder about just overall movement and upside. He's not going to give you a lot. I
don't know about that. I think you're all sleeping on old Charlie Kolar. How about this? Whoever gets Charlie Kolar next year, I think is going to think that was their best free agent signing.
Okay. I think I got a sleeper as well. I'm going Tommy Tremble from Carolina. He's a really good player. And what I think the Niners could really use is like why, Kittle is such a great blocker. And then you look at a guy like Luke Farrell, who's considered a great blocker, and he looks horrible. And you're sitting there going, why?
Meanwhile, Saubert looks incredible for Seattle, by the way.
Yeah, Saubert had a really nice little run. But, I mean, I think what they really need is they need that blocker in space. It's easy to find a glorified tackle and put them at
Right.
tight end.
Right.
You got to be able to find guys and pick them off in space.
Mhm.
And I think Tremble has played on some bad teams with some bad quarterbacks. I think he's got way better hands. He's got way better movement ability. He's a tenacious, he's not a strong inline blocker, but he's a tenacious guy who can pick off athletic. He's athletic. He can pick off guys in space.
Mhm.
And he's just a different kind of a blocker. But I think there's a lot of dynamic receiving upside there. So I'm a big Tommy Tremble fan. And I think you could get him at a reasonable cost. They've got a bunch of tight ends. They got other needs there. I don't think he's going to be a priority for them.
Not
And
for
I think
Carolina.
he's smart enough to digest the offense. Intelligence is a big part of tight end in this offense.
That's why
This is
rookies
a really,
rarely succeed at tight end in the league in
Yeah.
general. Imagine what it's like for Kyle Shanahan's teams.
yeah. So I mean, I really like Tremble. There's other guys that I really like as well, but Tremble would be the guy that I would go for at tight end. All right, let's move this to from tight end to offensive tackle.
Yeah.
Offensive tackle. They have Trent, they have McKivitz, they have Pleasance, who played well
had a
when
nice
he was in there. So they probably feel pretty good about they don't feel like they need to draft a tackle in the first round because they have other needs and because I don't think whoever they draft is likely to start over Trent or Colton. But I definitely think they have to come away with a tackle that they like long term in this draft. So that changes the dynamic. And it's really, some people would say it really doesn't change anything because all the best tackles go in the first round. And if a guy's not in the first round, he's not worth taking. I don't know if I buy that.
I don't think that's true, but there is some validity to the argument.
I mean, it's a hard position to find after the first round.
Yep.
That's for sure. But the guys I like J.C. Davis from Illinois, though I saw him get worked pretty bad in the Senior Bowl where he got just bull rushed by Zion Young a couple times. But I do like him. But the guy that I really like at tackle is I like the Notre Dame kid, Emil Wagner. He's smart. He's tough. He's tenacious.
He was great.
He's 305 pounds, 310 pounds. He's going to be 330. I mean, but he's smart. He's got good long arms, 35-inch arms.
Don't even start me on those feet,
I
though.
really, really like what I see there. To me, that is a player that I really think with the right coach 2 years from now could be a very, very good player.
Yes. I'm in 100% agreement there. The problem is he's going to be a day 2 pick because everybody now knows that
you think he's going in the third round.
I think he might even go in the second, Lair.
Yeah, I mean, I was hoping that he would be there in like the 4th or 5th round.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
But I might take him because I think he's so clean.
I don't disagree on taking him on day 2. I'm just saying that you're putting some.
There's so many things to like about him. He's an upside play for sure. I mean, there are better, more experienced tackles with better power, but I just think he's going to be better than all of them. I think in 3 years.
For me, there's a million ways I can go. There's a lot of tackles that I really like in this class. It's a good tackle class. It's a really good tackle class, especially if you're sitting at 27, because there's a second round that's coming around. Not literally the second round, but there's kind of the second wave of tackles that's going to bubble up from day 2 over to round 1 because it's the second most premium position outside of quarterback. I might be a little too galaxy brained on this, to be fair. But at 27, I take Hayden Proctor. I take him because you might not need him at tackle.
Just a gigantic tackle. He's
6'7", 370 pounds.
Yeah.
Absolute mountain. They played him at halfback, literal halfback. He can jump over an entire offensive line. He is a freak athlete with freak size. The footwork, I think, is kind of getting shit on in some corners. I don't understand what they're talking about. I really don't get it. He's got everything you're looking for, except for a body that makes anybody swoon because it's just kind of doughy looking. He probably just needed a jersey that was a size too big. But the reason I take him is because you need a starting left guard. I'm not saying that he's automatically your starting left guard, but you can put him in that competition for week 1 from the day you get him. And you can have a little bit now, and you can have a hell of a lot later. This is a two in the hand situation, which is pretty rare when we're constantly looking for the one in the hand instead of two in the bush. I think it's two in the hand. I think he can be your starting left guard day one this season. Could be. Again, I do think that you need to make sure that you have other good options there. And I think that this guy has the athletic ability and the size and I think enough polish, certainly, though you can only imagine what it would be like in another year or two, to be your starting left tackle when Trent Williams retires. I think that this would be an absolute home run for the 49ers. And while I do like Monroe Freeling more as a prospect, I can't play him at guard. I can't get something today, and now I'm using the premium pick, perhaps my most valuable asset this offseason, on something that is not going to pay off for 2 years. I'm buying a government bond here. And that might be a very safe, strong investment, but I need to win tomorrow, and this guy can help me do both of those things without losing any of that high interest rate. So I would go with Caden Proctor, and it's honestly a miracle that he's going to fall to 27, but that's what this draft is all about. It's all about tackles.
Only thing I've heard about him is that he's just not fired up. Now, that I've heard that from a couple of different SEC people who are just like, you know what? He's got everything you want, except he just doesn't have that heart, doesn't have that guts. That I don't know. He's obviously huge.
I don't think he's going to be a gold helmet guy, as John Lynch
had him linked to the Niners. I'll tell you, just watching the drills.
He's also 20, by the way.
Yeah, he's a he's a blue chipper. I mean, he's a big, gigantic tackle. The Arizona State kid. I don't think I know there's going to be coaching there, but I mean, I have never seen a guy 330 with that kind of footwork. That's the best 330 footwork I've ever seen. He's just super fast. Now he has to be coached, and there's all kinds of issues there.
Anything he can dance. He can dance. I don't know if he can play tackle.
330 though. I mean, he's 330 and he looks like about 285.
True.
The other guy that I love that 6'9" tackle from Central Florida. I forget the guy's name.
I don't know who you're talking about there.
There's a 6'9", 330-pound tackle from Central Florida who's really, really good. And I saw him in one of the All-Star games. Also the Maryland kid who's 6'6", 320, Heron.
Something about the Maryland kid.
Yeah.
I'll give you another name.
Here, his name's Paul Rebelt, 6'9", 340. Or 330. Yeah, he's like a really interesting prospect.
Arguably the best offensive lineman in college football this year was Missouri's right tackle, Keegan Trost. And I was watching Mizzou tape. Well, I watched every snap of their season because I went there. And when you give them tens of thousands of dollars, I'm entitled to be entertained by my football team is how I personally view it. And they did come up short there. But Trost transfers in from Wake. He really moves people off the edge. Now, he's probably more of a right tackle than a left because of specs, but I think the specs are good enough. Trost is a name that, to be fair, came onto my radar because somebody who is in a good position somewhere else in the league said, hey, what do you know about Trost? And I'm like, I kind of gave him the loose scouting report from the season, and then he's like, you probably need to actually watch this kid because there's a lot of conversation about Trost right now. I don't think he gets to day two, but he might. I mean, the trajectory is really booming, but Keegan Trost is a name to keep an eye on. And when I watched the tape, I totally got it when this guy was telling me that this is somebody that you need to be on.
My interior offensive line guy, I'm going Nick Allegretti, who's right now with the Commanders, but I do expect that he's going to get – Commanders are hugged up against the cap, and I think he'll be a cap casualty. He was in Kansas City. The Niners considered signing him before he went to Washington. He's going to be cheap. He can play center. He can play right guard. He can play left guard. He's dependable. I don't think the 49ers want to take any real chances. I think they want to have I think they want to have a guy that they know can play left guard, but I think they also are going to want to maybe draft a guard.
Right.
And then, so I think they want a guy who can play multiple spots and maybe be insurance against Brendel. And I think Allegretti fits that bill. So I think he's reasonably cost, and I think that's a name that I could see. He's smart, he's versatile, he's tough. They've shown interest in the past. I could see, and I know he would love to come here. So that I'm going to say Nick Allegretti. Who's your interior offensive line addition?
Yeah, give me a Nez Cooper, the right guard. I'm moving him to
Miami?
left from Miami. This is a heavyweight boxer. This is a
Big
mean
boy.
SOB. And if you're trying to put together an offensive line that can go punch for punch with Seattle's defensive line, you're going to need to get bigger and meaner and, frankly, a little slower, right? You can't be worrying about style points here or, we're going to hit the angle just right. You just need to get some mean SOBs up there. And first, there was no meaner, tougher team in college football this year, with due apologies to the national champions who were pretty mean and tough themselves. Miami scares you. When you watch, those are men with hate in their hearts. They were an impressive operation in the trenches, and maybe if they had a better quarterback who had his head on straight, they might have been in a better situation. I want every share I can get of their defensive line, of their offensive line, and I just love Cooper because when he gets his hands on you, you're done. You're done, and he's not just, hey, I'm blocking. We're all, you're not moving. He's taking you and he's throwing you 5 yards away, and then he's going and finding your friend and beating him up too. This dude's in a bar fight on every snap, and we're talking about how the Niners need more mean. This guy's got it. He's not prototypical. He's not what they usually go for. That's exactly why they need him, and I think he can be found in round 4.
I like that. That's a good one. All right, let's jump to the defensive side of the ball. We'll do this a little faster. Defensive tackle. Who is your defensive tackle that you want to go with? That to me, they need a rusher opposite. West and Collins are both strong against the run, but I think they need somebody they need a real rusher. I mean, they need somebody who's quick inside. Doesn't even have to be an every down guy. It can be kind of a situational rusher.
Right.
But they need.
You're telling me they need a Kalia Davis upgrade.
A Kalia Davis. I mean, I like Kalia Davis, but I mean, preferably somebody who could play a little bit, play the run a little bit better, and maybe be a little bit more dynamic and maybe a little bit more durable. Okay, so Kalia was durable this year. I gotta give him.
I have to give you 2 for 1 because I'm not allocating a lot of resource here, frankly. Amongst on the rubric that you gave me, I'm not allocating a lot of resource. So this guy kind of qualifies as both. At defensive end, I like Danny Dennis Sutton out of Penn State. He fits that Yetur Gross-Matos mold. We're talking 6'5", 270. You can flash him inside. You can put him on the edge to set it. I think that's – I know that, Robert Saleh's not here anymore, and they might be moving to something a little bit different, but clearly – John Lynch isn't against the Yetur Gross-Matos mold and somebody who can play there because he took Mykel Williams as well. I like Danny Dennis Sutton as a day 3 pick, as an edge. And then defensive tackle, this was tough. It's such a premium position, but a name that I had circled 2 years ago. I mean, I literally, thank God I keep pretty good notes, not as good as they should be. Jonathan Jefferson was a kid who transferred from Georgia to SMU. You're not going to find him anywhere. He didn't play last year. But this dude's got crazy twitch off the line. Huge. Like 6'4", 320, but he plays like he's 270, right? Just a gap splitter at that big size. I don't think he's getting drafted. And I think I want a taste of him in camp. Jonathan Jefferson, you're buying pedigree, no production, but you're not asking for much more than can you get into the backfield and be big. And there's not a lot of guys who can do that. You're going to see a lot of dudes who are presented as defensive tackles in this draft who are like 260 pounds. Sorry, you're immediately dead. There's no way you can play at 260 pound on the interior. This isn't 1942. So I need a big honker who's got explosion off the line. Hate to say it, you need a Kinlaw type, if you will. At least you're not giving up a first-round pick for him here. You're bringing him in as an undrafted free agent. Jonathan Jefferson is a name I'm keeping an eye on.
Wow, you're going deep.
Yeah.
Okay, so my defensive tackle is Zane Durant. I just love Durant. He's an incredible pass rusher. He's very, very quick.
D-line.
He's 288 pounds, but he really carries his pads well. He's got some anchor, but he's not really a run defender. He's more of a hit the gap and go. But he is a real penetrating monster, and the movement skills are off the charts.
Yeah.
I also love Caleb Proctor from Southeast Louisiana State. He's a really intriguing guy with 11-inch hands, very very quick off the snap, but he's more like 280. This guy's a little shorter, but he's like 290, 295, and I just think Zane Durant would be an ideal player. He's probably going to be a third-round pick. Really like Zane Durant. For my edge rusher, I mean, there's a bunch of them I really like. I love Mikhail Kamara from Indiana, even though he's short. I think short is sometimes underrated in these edge rushers. You don't give a lot of surface area for these tackles to block. It's hard to block a 6-foot guy who's 260 and has great twitch, and that's Mikhail Kamara. But I like I'm going to go with Cassius Howell from A&M. I just think that the 49ers really need to add speed. Speed is the name of the game. You got to, if you're really going to make the best use of this line opposite Bosa, you got to get a speed rusher opposite him. Why he was so good opposite D Ford is D Ford was a pure speed rusher. So pure speed rushers try to get the edge, and in doing so, they spread that tackle out. He's got to kick out more, and then that gives us more room to operate. I just think Cassius Howell would be the perfect player for the 49ers to have opposite Bosa to create the lanes for the twists and the stunts and all the stuff that Chris likes to do. So I'm going to say Cassius Howell from A&M. It's going to take a higher pick, but I think he may be a second-round pick because he's a little shorter.
I think that's fair.
But I love him. I absolutely love him. All right, now let's go linebacker. And I'm going with some late round guys because I've already used high picks on other people. But go ahead. Who do you have at linebacker? We're going with two.
My free agent's Willie Gay. I think Willie Gay got
really like him
kind of done dirty by the Miami situation.
Very fast.
Where, he couldn't play over Jordan Brooks, but then they didn't try him at Mike, and they ran through a bunch of randos at Mike. And they're like, well, no, he's only weak side. Well, okay, that's the one position on Miami that was actually locked up and solid. So he was really just a special teamer this last year. So you can get a guy who was one of the 10 best weak side linebackers in football, in my estimation.
Had a great game against the Niners at Levi's.
He did. I've loved him since Mississippi State, but I think you can get him for a song. I agree. There's a lot of good discount weak side linebackers. EJ Speed is another good one. Troy Anderson, if you're willing to take on the injury risk. There's a lot there. You obviously need this guy to be able to play some special teams too, because I'm letting Gifford walk. But I like Willie Gay, who actually was a good special teamer for Miami this past year. And then
that's a good name.
This is
that's a great value.
It's a great value, unbelievable value. And I think that you can get unbelievable value this year. And so I kind of just picked one of 5 guys that kind of fit that bill. But the other guy, I am having a hard time, and I haven't broached this with Jake yet because we've been talking a lot about linebackers, and we love the kid out of Texas, and I love Hill, and we
Anthony
love
Hill,
Allen, and I think the best and I can't do it. Yeah, I'm reticent to do this because he's a Missouri Tiger, but I think the best linebacker in this class is Josiah Trotter. West Virginia transfer, played at Mizzou, son of, yes, Trotter. So he was unbelievable, and I think he can play weak side or Mike down the line. But as a weak side linebacker, he's got the speed, he's got the recognition. He is a game changer. He is an eraser. He is impossible to miss when he plays football, and he was such a benefit to. He was the best player to watch for Mizzou all year. They had a lot of good talent, but he was unquestionably the best.
That running back was pretty fun too. And Zion.
Listen, Ahmad Hardy's the best running back in college football. And again, I think in a really good linebacker class where you can have 2 guys go in the first round, if not 3, I think Josiah Trotter might be the best one. I think he's going to be there in round 2. And that's the kind of guy you need. He's got the smarts, which is something that, I hate to do this and put guys like, you didn't have that at that position this year. Sorry, like you didn't. Like D Winters is out there wondering what the play is in week 18. It's unacceptable stuff. And a lot of D Winters not knowing the play. You need to put a fire under his ass. You bring in somebody who grew up around the NFL, who has dominated at every level he's played at, who has a chip on his shoulder because, well, he's not the perfect size and he's not this. This guy can play weak side linebacker for you for 10 years. He can slide to Mike if you ever need a Mike because he's smart enough to do it and he's big enough to do it, I still think. I think Josiah Trotter is going to just be
That's a good one.
Unbelievable player in the NFL.
All right, my two linebackers are day 3 guys, but I really like both of them. And I kind of feel like this is where the value is at this linebacker position. There's a lot of great athletes that can play linebacker in the NFL, and a lot of times they wind up going in the late rounds. The Niners, I think, need speed at linebacker. They used to have the fastest linebackers. They're now the slowest. So I got 2 guys here that are a little undersized but can really run. One is a guy named Shad Banks who plays for Texas, University of Texas San Antonio, UTSA.
Go Roadrunners.
And he is a transfer. He's an undersized guy, 215, 220, but he's just great instincts. And he just flies to the football. Just absolutely flies to the football. The other one is a guy that he goes by the nickname E40, which is just he wears number 40, and he played for Morgan State.
Okay.
And his name is Eric Hunter.
Okay.
And he
E40.
goes by E40. And
made for the Bay.
This guy, yeah, I mean, you go by E40. I mean, how could the Niners not take a guy who goes by E40? But
this is how I like to draft. Who has the coolest nickname?
This guy, though, has to be seen to be believed. I mean, it's just he's playing very, very fast. He's very, very athletic. He's a small school guy who is just going to be electric. I mean, he's going to be a special teamer at first probably, but this guy can fly, and he makes tons of tackles. He loves to play. He loves to hit. So there you go. Eric Hunter from Morgan State and Shad Banks from UTSA. All right, we got 2 left. Let's go with your safety. Who is your safety? And this is a big one, Dieter, because they have Malik Mustafa. They have Jair Brown. Some people really like Jair Brown. Other people don't. They have Marquise Siegel. Siegel looked great. Then he looked terrible. Then he looked great. Then he looked terrible. He's a young player, but he's got a lot of talent. He's very physical. He can cover a little bit. He's former corner. There's some intriguing talent, but they also really need a great player here. They've messed around with some okay players. It's time for a great player here. And I would love to go get Budda Baker and just put him down and be like, hey, Budda Baker. But I just don't think they're going to have the money to pay him, nor are they going to have draft capital to get him. So I just don't think Budda Baker is realistic. But give me your safety. They need a significant safety.
I'm not giving you a significant safety. I'm giving you a complete flyer.
Okay, well, no problem.
Wonkpa out of Iowa. So we watched Jake and I spent a lot of time watching Iowa's defense last year. There were a couple players good defense, and I cannot for the life of me remember their other safety's name. But I came away from the tape consistently being like, I don't know, I like 8. And then 8's not draftable. And he was crazy athletic, looked crazy smart. Not the greatest specs, but Xavier Wonkpa, sorry, it starts with an N, N-W, Wonkpa. He just looks to me like he's an NFL player. And I've been watching it for 2 years. I can't get enough of this guy. It's raw, to be fair, but the traits are off the charts. And everyone's going to be looking.
Day 3 flyer. He's listed at pick number 247.
Total flyer.
He'd be like a late 7th round pick.
But no one knows what the hell they're looking at safety. No one knows. And it's so hard at the college level. I mean, I'll give you 2 names.
He's an Iowa kid. He's from Pleasant Hill, Iowa.
Yeah, that's just outside of Omaha, I think.
6'2", 210.
and he flies. He absolutely flies. It's so funny because Jake and I spent a tremendous amount of time, way too much time, talking about Nicky Menwari during last year's draft cycle because we were just adamant that he's not a safety. That he can't play safety. You put him out in the open field, he has no idea what he's doing. The problem was he was such a great athlete that you're like, hey, he gets to the right spot, and then he immediately goes to Seattle, and you knew it was going to be something special because he fits the Kyle Hamilton mold. This is not that, but I remember having conversations with Jake last year about this kid who hadn't come out yet from Iowa, this Iowa safety, and I think it was Castro was the other one that Jake really liked. I don't know whatever happened to him. And I'm like, I don't know, this Iowa guy kind of reminds me a lot of Emanwari. Not the same frame, but the same sort of, you cannot stop him if he decides to go somewhere. So that's my flyer. I like number 8 from Iowa.
It's a good one. It's a good one. I went with more of a blue chip guy. Now, I love Bud Clark from TCU. I thought he had an incredible Senior Bowl. He's just very good in coverage. I love this kid, Keontae Scott from Miami. Really love him.
Keontae Scott's great, but he's a slot.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's a safety. They list him as a safety. I don't think he's a safety.
He's a great player, though.
He's a great player. Great break on the ball. I love the kid from Toledo, Emmanuel McNeil Warren. Caleb Downs, obviously, is a star. My favorite safety in this group is an old school safety who started at Houston, transferred to LSU, AJ Halsey. Okay. And, he is a hitter. I mean, this guy, the 49er, John Lynch, this would be John Lynch drafting John Lynch. I mean, this guy will tee you up. He's a 220-pound safety, but he's got coverage ability. Okay. And he's going to go probably in the second round. And this guy will absolutely knock you till next week. He's an intimidator. He is a fearsome defender. He could be their modern day Ronnie. I'm not saying he's Ronnie, but he's a big time hitter. Okay. Who can also play coverage. So I really like him. To me, that's another culture type player. Who is your corner?
Yeah,
you need a corner as well. Who are you going with at corner?
3rd round, Davidson Igbinosun out of Ohio State. Total boomer bust. He's either the best corner in this draft, and there's some good ones, but I'm not totally sold on Monsieur Delane or Jeremy McCoy, or Terrell's actually the best corner in this draft. But Davidson Igbinosun is somebody that, again, had an eye on for more than a year now. Really liked a lot of his tape out of Ohio State last year. Kind of regressed a little bit this year.
They coached that position well at Ohio State.
They do. And they're the only team that you can get good tape on someone playing press in college football. So there's always going to be a bias towards that. But also, that's what you play at the NFL, and everybody else is just sort of guessing. You're just guessing if they're going to be able to play press or not, because they don't. They play soft shoe, 5 yards, 10 yards, 15 yards back, snap after snap, just waiting for shitty quarterbacks to make bad throws. And guess what? They do for most teams in college football, which is why you can have Fernando Mendoza going 1 overall. Not that he shouldn't, just saying the standard of quarterback play has gotten terribly woeful at the college level. This guy's big, mean, physical, tall. I just dig him. I dig him. And again, he's either going to completely flame out because he's too handsy. He doesn't have the loose enough hips. He just gets exposed as sort of a mauler at a position where you cannot do that. Or he's going to be one of the best corners in the league, full stop, because he can do all of those things and stay with you and guess your routes and press you off the jump. I think that he's, again, kind of like Aller, totally worth a flyer in the sense of you gotta get big time players, and you're not getting a big time player if you're in the 3rd round unless you're willing to take on some risk. I'm going to throw one more name at you here. This is a real deep cut, and it's an Ohio State tie. You will not find a better tape of a corner against the best wide receiver in college football, Jeremiah Smith, than what then Marshall corner Josh Moten did to him 2 years ago. You won't do it, and I'm yet to find one. Josh Moten has played for roughly 14 different college football programs. He's a little too light, but this dude can shadow. And he had 5 pass breakups in that game against Ohio State when he was playing for Marshall. He transferred to Southern Miss. I don't know what the hell was going on there. He probably exhausted his eligibility, if that's even possible anymore. Josh Moten is going to make an NFL roster, and he might be starting for a team in the not too distant future. And you don't have to use a draft pick on him at all. Josh Moten is my deep cut at corner.
I like it. I like it. I'm going to stay blue chip on this one. I do like D'Angelo Pons an awful lot.
I do too.
And Pons to me is a very safe pick. He's small, but I said I liked Upton Stout. He's Upton Stout. I mean, he's not quite as tough as Upton Stout, but he's probably
you can
a
play
little
him on the
better
outside though, unlike Stout.
Yeah, I mean, this guy's
He's man to man.
this
too.
guy might be 5'8". I mean, I think he's short. He's really short, but he's also tough and he's a really good player. But I like Tariq Woolen. I think I know Woolen's had issues in Seattle. I know there's been inconsistency there, but what we saw early this year, I think, is the player that he can be. It's going to take some polishing. It's going to take some coaching, but I do like this player. I think he would be a really good addition for the Niners. Take somebody away from Seattle and add a big cover guy who's got some dominant length to him.
Something to always remember, and this is a great positive for Pons. The Niners don't want you at corner if you can't tackle. If you can't come in and help in the run game, they don't have much purpose for you. And Pons has track star speed. Yeah, he's small, plays the ball great, and he is such a willing tackler. He's an outstanding tackler. Someone might play him in the slot. I think he was an impact player, clearly an elite player at the college level. I like Pons a lot. I'm not sure where he goes because there's going to be some questions on spec and stuff, but very hard to feel like you're not getting a good value if you're taking Pons anywhere in the draft.
Pretty good stuff. All right, so you went with
I could just lay it on you here.
Drew Aller, Tyler Algier, Jacoby Lane,
Yep.
Noah Thomas, Charlie Kohler,
Yep.
Caden Proctor,
Yep.
Inez Cooper,
Yes, sir.
Danny Dennis Sutton,
Yep.
Jonathan Jefferson, we'll have to look him up,
Yep.
Willie Gay,
Yep.
Josiah Trotter,
That's right.
Xavier Zonkpa,
We're going
and
Wampa. Yeah.
Davin Igbenuson.
Davidson Igbenosin. Yeah.
And I went with Zach Wilson, Kalen Black, Kevin Coleman, Jordan Addison, Tommy Tremble, Emil Wagner, Nick Allegretti, Zane Durant, Cassius Howell, Eric Hunter, Shad Banks, AJ Halsey, Tariq Woolen. It's a good list. It's a good list. I really do. I think we have two pretty good lists there. And it
Very
gives
interesting dichotomy on the list too.
What's in what way?
I don't think either of us went heavy in the same spot. I don't think we used, you kind of gave me a rubric of like, oh, you get 4 free agents and like 8 draft picks and like 1 trade. It doesn't feel like we aligned on where to spend it, but I don't disagree
where's
with
your only thing I would have a hard time deciphering is exactly which pick that you made would actually be like the first round pick, because like
Proctor.
Igbenuson could be in the first round.
No, Igbenuson's around
Danny
3.
Dennis Sutton, if he works out the way I think, could be in the first round, and Proctor could be in the first round.
I mean, Danny Dennis Sutton is a day 3 pick.
He's 6'6", 260.
Yeah, but he didn't have the production. He doesn't have the bag. He's
going to work out though. I heard.
Yeah, I'm sure he's going to work out great. Listen. So here's how I.
You really think he's a day 3 guy? I think he's probably going to be second round. We'll see.
We'll find out. I wasn't the biggest fan of his tape, to be fair. I was betting on spec, which a lot of NFL teams do.
I mean, he's a big, talented, athletic, long defensive end.
At some point, production matters. We'll find out. Wouldn't shock me if he moved up, but I have him literally as a 5th round pick on mine, where again the production just didn't match up at all with the specs. I had Aller as a 4th. Noah Thomas is a UDFA. Jacoby Lane is a round 4, which is probably wishful thinking, but I have heard he's sliding because there's just not the athletic traits that you're looking for. Proctor is pick 27. Inez Cooper in the 4th. Dennis Sutton in the 5th. Maybe that's a stretch. Maybe not. I thought it was pretty safe, but I could very well be wrong. Trotter is a 2nd round pick. And Wonkpa as a UDFA with Igbenosin as the 3rd round pick.
I mean, what we didn't do is we didn't go like a lot of Max Crosby big trade names. We also didn't
need to
go
spread the
with a
money
lot
around.
of high first round picks. I don't know, like I went with Halsey. He's maybe going to go late first.
Maybe.
Probably
not.
Howell, maybe he goes late first.
Yeah, no, I think Howell is in that. I think
They're
Howell is
almost kind of
absolutely
trade-back
a second
candidates.
round pick. He just screams second round pick to me.
Yeah, I mean, so we weren't unrealistic. It's not like anybody can sit there and go, "Oh my God, there's no way you're getting all that."
The only guy that you can be like, "Oh, I don't know about that, Dieter," is like Danny Dennis Sutton. Like, fair enough.
Yeah, but good. Hey, that was a good exercise. Good exercise.
For sure.
Let's hit some of our supers, and then we'll bolt.
Cool.
We got. Let's see. Where did we pick this up here? Wait, where did we?
God help us.
Let's see. You'll remember. Did you read this?
Yeah, we read that one.
Did you read this one?
Yep.
Did you read this one?
Yep. I'd skip down like 6 or 7.
Okay. You've read that one.
Next one.
That one. This one.
Already seen it.
This one.
Next.
This one.
Another one.
This one.
Next. That was the last one we read, I think.
And this one.
No more Kubiak in Seattle. Will their offense regress in almost like a Shakespearean tone of their offense?
They're going to have Mike Kafka supposedly as their new coordinator. He was smart. I mean, he's a good quarterback at Northwestern. I think he's a pretty smart guy. We'll see.
When we talk about good stuff, Northwestern football. It's listen. My knock on Kubiak, as someone who I watched every ounce. I watched the Seahawks, not nearly as much as I watched the Niners, but I watched Seahawks film, all 22 every week, because I was convinced something big was happening there. I try to watch the entire division. I gave up on Arizona pretty quick, but my issue with Kubiak, and the Raiders are going to find this out, is he is just the week one of Kyle Shanahan install, and it never really got beyond that. It was basic, vanilla, off-the-shelf Kyle Shanahan.
I don't think he's got much of a presence in front of a group. That'd be my concern.
I don't think it matters if you can call cool plays, but when you're coming from the absolute dearth that they had in Seattle before him, he comes in, he looks like a genius. Well, we'll see how that goes. But, I guess I don't think that the bar is actually that high, right? Literally the only
Raiders.
Pardon?
It's the Raiders.
Well, no, I'm saying for whomever comes in, you go, oh, man, you just replaced a Super Bowl winning offensive coordinator. I don't think Clint Kubiak was all that good. He was just way better, and he was adequate enough, clearly. But
he established their run game when they had none. I mean, they were dead last in the NFL in rush attempts last year.
That was John Benton, baby. Like that's
Benton was been there the whole time.
Yeah,
he left the Niners and went there.
And they did a very good job of drafting. They still had issues with Anthony Bradford at right guard, but they identifying Sundell was a great move. Drafting Gray Zabel was a great move. You had solid tackle play. Listen, I'm not arguing that they didn't have the offense, but they won because of their defense. And that offense, off script, second half of the year, was one of the worst in the NFL. If they didn't score in the first possession or two, they didn't score unless the defense gave them a 14-point lead. There were several games down the stretch for Seattle this year where it was 3-0 at halftime, and the defense is fine, we'll do it ourselves, and gets 2 touchdowns, and then they can front run from there.
They just weren't very ambitious offensively because I think they just figured, you know what, why take chances?
I'm with you. But again,
I think he'll take more chances with the Raiders.
The grand offensive innovation was let's move Jackson Smith and Jigba around. It's you needed to hire a new person to tell you that? That doesn't say much. So I don't think that the bar is actually as high as it would colloquially be made out to be. So maybe they don't regress as hard as you think they would.
We got this one here. What is this one?
It says Seahawks fans don't exist until they're Super Bowl contenders. Also, the whole 12s thing is super lame. I agree on the second part. It's also very litigious. I will say,
A&M, really.
I mean, I have my wife's family's up in the Pacific Northwest. Let me tell you, that ain't front running. These people, they exist. The problem is you just don't see them because no one ever leaves the upper left in general. So, Seahawks fans go deep. I think that's some fly-by-night analysis there.
I think the Seahawk fans, first of all, the 12 thing is bullshit. They stole it from A&M. But as far as their fans, I think their fans are pretty good. I think they had
about
a
it.
good vibe up there when I was up there.
I love it.
Who do we have
Okay,
here?
here's Brad Jones again. Brad coming through with a lot of Australian dollars. Who knows what the currency conversion rate is these days? I say the ideal tackle fell to them at 27 with their lofty standards for tackles. Oh boy, we need some punctuation. Do they not bring back Trent? Well, yes, they're going to bring back Trent because they need to redo his contract. Yeah, they'll figure it out. They have no choice but to figure it out. It's Trent Williams. So, listen, they're not going to take a guy that they pick at 27 and tell Trent Williams to walk. Just
No.
0.000% chance.
Okay, we got this one. Let's see. Did we get that? Let's see. Do we have that one, or do we just do that?
No, we
one?
just did that one.
Okay, let's go to this one.
Didn't the Jets locker room hate Zach Wilson? I don't think the Jets locker room should be held up as any sort of an example of anything.
Yeah, and Zach Wilson. I don't think Zach Wilson's in a cancer in the locker room. He's maybe a little immature. He's learned a lot. My guess. I mean, this is why he would come here. If things were going well, he wouldn't come here. But he needs to be reclaimed and rebuilt, and that's why he's a good candidate.
He's bounced around to a lot of teams now, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
but he does have arm talent.
Yeah. He also loves throwing it to the other team.
I mean, I'll take my chances with him over the alternatives. I don't see a better alternative.
Okay, this is from Lou Asshole, 4061. JL is the third best GM in the division. Is Kyle third too? Yeah, sure.
I guess.
Kick McKivitz to left guard if you take your man Freeland, Dieter. First off, not my man Freeland, just telling you that he's a really good prospect. And McKivitz has been your best offensive lineman, not named Trent Williams, the last 2 years. You're not moving him to left guard. He can't play left guard. He's a tackle. So, no.
Yeah, I think McKivitz is an ascending player. I think he's still getting better. I think he's coming off his best year.
Yeah.
I do understand the need to get more pop, but I think it's more of an interior need than a tackle need. I think I like McKivitz. I just I would like a new center and a new left guard, and preferably some guys who really do move people. Some guys who could power
very hard
through.
to find that at center.
Oh,
very hard.
It's very hard,
especially if you want to still run your zone stuff.
I'll tell you the guy that I really like at center is I like the Duke right tackle Parker, who's moved to center. I think he's got some
There's
juice.
Something there. There's something there.
You
look at another guy who did that in the not too recent past, Graham Barton, who
did it well.
Did it very well, got drafted in the first round. And they slid him back to tackle this year because they needed to. So, not saying he's Graham Barton, but Duke, we had a good conversation on the Dieter and Hutch show about which are the colleges that aren't blue chips. And I should note that Duke is the ACC champion. But it's Duke, Cal, those are two schools that produce shockingly good players for how few games they win.
No doubt. Thanks to Habas Law for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. 1-800-INJURED. They will fight to make it right. When you need a good lawyer, habaslaw.com is where you should go. 1-800-INJURED. 1-800-INJURED. Thanks to Habas Law for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. All right, thanks to Sleeper as well. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle. Dieter, good to see you. When do we hear you next on the leader? When do you pop on again?
Oh, I think I have a show on Friday. Heaven forbid we don't do baseball talk for 4 days, but that's just me bloviating right now. By the way, baseball column up in the morning. I'll be around. Jake and I will talk some draft on Thursday. You should subscribe to the Dieter and Hutch show because we're getting right into the wheelhouse, baby.
There you go. You're writing about baseball tomorrow.
Oh, it's already written. It's in the can. Writing. What a concept. Like in 2026, what a loser.
What's the topic?
The Giants.
Like what, though?
What are we doing here?
All right. Anyway, you know what? I think I went through this whole show without my light even being on. I never turned it on in the back.
You still look beautiful.
Damn. I'm looking at that circle going, why is that thing not lit up? All right, that does it for us. Thanks to Dieter. Thanks to all of you. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful.